Okay.
Oh, no, I'm a no on this. We should be able to menace healthcare workers.
I know. Where's the, we have a gavel?
Yeah. Nah. We should be able to menace healthcare workers.
Thank you, Charlie.
He ain't here, so we don't need to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, he ain't here, so we hold this one.
We hold that one, it's blind.
Thank you for everyone's attendance. The Public Safety Committee of Cleveland City Council will now come to order. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum? Would you please call the roll? Present.
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 Thank you. To the ladies and gentlemen in attendance, there were two pieces on the original notification that went out that are being held due to the need for additional information. That will be, let me see, ordinance number 121425 and ordinance number 138025. So the first one, 1214, was pertaining to CPC, and 1380 pertaining to, that was my mistake, 1250 pertaining to towing, where we need some additional information on that piece. So those two will be held temporarily until we can move on. So I'm going to deal with the first piece of legislation today, then we're going to get into the presentation about ShotSpotter. First piece up will be ordinance number 1380-25 by council members Griffin and Polensek to amend section 621.07 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as enacted by ordinance number 54-74, passed March 25, 1974, relating to menacing of a healthcare worker. It was read for the first time on October 27, 25. It went to the Department of Public Safety, where its indicated contents noted. It was approved by the Director of Public Health. It was approved by the Director of Finance. There's no legal objection. So I want to call upon our council staff who worked on this, and then we have some folks here from the healthcare industry who would like to comment as well. Our attorney, Jennifer O'Malley.
Thank you through the chair. I love their chocolate.
I know.
Thanks.
Jennifer, would you care to, or Leary, would you care to comment before your husband calls me, okay?
O'Malley would be an upgrade. Just kidding. Okay. So just for the chocolate. The chocolate, you know. All right.
Okay.
Through the chair to the committee, this ordinance amends codified ordinance section 621.07 to increase the penalty for menacing a healthcare worker to a first-degree misdemeanor. First-degree misdemeanors generally carry up to 6 months in jail and/or up to a $1,000 fine imposed by the court. In this case, if the victim of the offense is a healthcare worker while performing their official responsibilities, the convicted offender shall receive a mandatory minimum jail sentence of at least 3 days. The current penalty for menacing without being a healthcare worker is a fourth-degree misdemeanor that carries up to 30 days in jail and/or up to a $250 fine. We define healthcare worker in the ordinance, and menacing is basically no person shall knowingly cause another to believe that the offender will cause physical harm to the person or property of such other person or member of his or her immediate family. And the general legislative purpose is that the city wants to discourage and strongly penalize increasing workplace violence against healthcare workers. Akron has a law. The Ohio General Assembly passed a bill last April that requires hospital systems to establish a workplace violence prevention security plan, reporting systems, and training for security personnel to deal with this growing problem.
Okay.
And with that, and Ibukun and I worked on this together, and we'll pass it over to
Ms. Ubikun, would you care to comment?
Sure.
Use the microphone, dear.
Sure. As Jennifer mentioned, it's to discourage violence against healthcare workers, which has increased, and they're 5 times more likely to be victims of workplace violence. And the Cleveland Clinic has more information that they'll share about that.
Thank you. We have 2 representatives of Cleveland Clinic here. Would you care to introduce yourself? And hit the button so it turns green. There we go. And pull the mic up close to you. So,
Good morning. My name is Dallas Moyer. I'm the Senior Project Manager for the Cleveland Clinic Center for Workplace Violence Prevention and
Yes.
Caregiver Wellbeing.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Deion McCauley. I'm the Chief of Police for the Cleveland Clinic Police Department.
and always good to see an old friend at the table. So tell us, give us your spin. The council president and I have talked about this, the growing concerns, and that's why I want to thank our staff for the work that they did. The growing concerns that we have about healthcare workers under great stress to begin with. We all know from 2020 what they went through, but then the unfortunate situations we find ourselves in, or they find themselves in more and more, where they're being threatened, where they're under great distress. And so we had talked internally, and that's why we're proposing this action today. So would you care to comment?
Yes, I appreciate the time this morning of all the council members. Just have a couple remarks we want to share. So don't have to repeat everything, but there is a national epidemic of workplace violence in the United States, especially against our healthcare workers. In recent years, professional associations, journals, and media outlets have amplified this violence against healthcare workers, revealing the challenging realities they face every day. According to the 2022 Bureau of Labor Statistics report, healthcare workers are 5 times more likely to experience workplace violence in the workplace than any other private industry in the United States. Of those, 69% of those workers have a workplace violence event that results in at least 1 day of work missed. A 2022 Press Ganey data tells us that more than 2 nurses are assaulted every hour nationally. In a survey in 2024 by the American College of Emergency Physicians found that 91% of those physicians expressed they have been a direct victim or witnessed a colleague that was a victim. Considering these staggering statistics, workplace violence remains underreported nationally. The prevalence of workplace violence is no longer limited to our emergency departments and our behavioral health units. It's rising across all care settings, including inpatient units, outpatient facilities, and community clinics. Since 2023, reported workplace violence events against Cleveland Clinic caregivers in the city of Cleveland is on pace to increase by more than 34% by the end of this year. This year alone, 1 out of every 22 Cleveland Clinic caregivers in the city of Cleveland has reported at least 1 workplace violence event, with 1 out of every 43 experiencing physical workplace violence. Extrapolate that to the nearly 130,000 healthcare workers in the city of Cleveland reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics in May of 2024. It's potentially 6,000 victims. The psychological and physical workplace violence has a significant impact and number of consequences on healthcare workers and organizations, can also harm the care that we provide every day. Those who endure the violence are forever traumatized. They miss work to recover both mentally and physically, and unfortunately, many of those compassionate healthcare workers are either leaving the organizations they work for or leaving the industry as a whole. Nationally, we are looking at shortages amongst many healthcare worker groups. Cleveland Clinic sets caregiver safety as a top priority. This year, we created the center focused on keeping caregivers safe and preventing workplace violence events, being proactive in both prevention and response, as well as ensuring every caregiver has the resources they need to properly and safely recover and return to work. The center focuses on collaboration like this opportunity today, as well as other resources to ensure all of our caregivers stay safe and all of our patients receive great care. As it was mentioned earlier, there are multiple different levels of advocacy going on currently. In Congress over the past 2 years, the American Hospital Association has pushed for federal legislation that's currently sitting with the House and the Senate. Earlier this year, House Bill 452 went into place that now put a level playing field for all healthcare organizations to provide the same protections and cares for their caregivers. And as for today's topic of discussion, I'm confident that I can speak for the 26,000 Cleveland Clinic caregivers and the 130,000 other healthcare workers in the city of Cleveland in offering our wholehearted support in this amendment and change to the codified ordinance. By taking action, you're signaling your unwavering commitment that workplace violence should never be part of the job. I want to thank all of our council members, Council President Blaine Griffin, Councilman Michael Polensik for your support, and thank you for protecting those caregivers and those healthcare workers in the city of Cleveland who have taken an oath to do no harm, but excuse me, for those individuals who have answered the call at healthcare and takes an oath to do no harm, so to make sure they can provide that care without fear of violence. Chief McCauley, the floor is yours.
Chief, good to see you again.
Thank you, Dallas. Mr. Chairman, it's always an honor for me to, always have been an honor for me to come before this committee and now to reconnect with some of the members of this council that I've had the pleasure of working with for many, many years of my career. It's great to see you all and glad to see you all are continuing to do the work of this city. In 2021, when I became chief of police of the Cleveland Clinic Police Department, I quickly became aware of the rate or the frequency at which healthcare workers experience violence in the workplace, both physical and verbal violence in the workplace, as Dallas statistics has illustrated. But what was really alarming to me and concerning was the fact that this had become tolerable by healthcare workers in the profession, and that they didn't always report the statistic, and it is still an underreported statistic in healthcare. What the Cleveland Clinic has done in recent years is to make a directed effort toward encouraging caregivers to report violence in the workplace, both physical and verbal violence in the workplace, and put systems in place in order to simplify the reporting of that violence. When an act occurs, a Cleveland Clinic police officer will respond and take a police report, and that police officer will encourage prosecution. And in addition to that, the next day, a Cleveland Clinic detective will contact the victim and also emphasize the importance of prosecution and inform the victim that the clinic offers advocacy to help them navigate the prosecution process. What I believe that this law will do from my seat as chief of police is, number one, it'll act as any law, and that is as a deterrent to misbehavior in the healthcare system. But beyond that, it allows for accountability, that threats to any healthcare worker is no longer a smack on the wrist, but there are real consequences that attach to misbehavior in the workplace. And lastly, I would say that it shows that it has that this council and the hospital systems have a commitment to its workers to protect them as they go about the work of caring for those that are in need of healthcare services. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I do thank you for your time, and I yield my time.
Okay, couple questions that I'll call upon my colleagues. So I'm a worker I'm working in an emergency room, and I know we had this challenge over at UH, where we had to put violence interrupters inside of the emergency room because of what we were experiencing over at UH at their trauma center. So I'm a healthcare worker. I'm working in an emergency room at the clinic, and I'm threatened, or has there been actual physical contact besides actual threats?
It could be both.
Okay. So at that moment, I'm going to call for the clinic police to come, correct? That's the procedure. And there's going to be a report made, or that person is going to have to be escorted out. Can you actually constitute an arrest on your property?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. We have full police authority powers.
Okay.
Not unlike the city of Cleveland. When an incident occurs in our emergency department, we cannot escort that person out until they are treated because of EMTALA laws.
Okay.
So they have to be treated. We have to allow for that to happen. When an act of violence occurs, we consider that a code violent, We train, as police officers, we train with our nursing staff to respond.
Right.
If necessary, put restraints on that individual. And if that individual has committed an act that should result in an arrest after he or she is treated, then we will effect that arrest once they are discharged.
Okay, so whether I'm a patient or a visitor or family member, you actually can physically constitute an arrest on the property?
That's correct. We
Okay.
certainly can.
And then you would call CPD, correct?
No, we will, we have full authority on our property. If we make an arrest, we will transport that individual
Okay.
to the county and book that individual.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand the protocol here, because I want to make sure, and one of the things when we're through here, I would certainly encourage the clinic and all medical facilities to post something in their waiting rooms, in their emergency rooms, the law, that you threaten somebody, you run the risk of being arrested. You run the risk of being prosecuted. Now, that's where I want to follow up. So what you're saying, Chief, is that the clinic, who will actually undertake the filing of the complaint? Is it the individual that's been threatened, or is it the clinic?
The police officer that responds to the incident will
Right.
take the information.
Okay.
And based upon probable cause, they will decide whether or not an arrest is appropriate. And to the point that you made a second ago, and I think my colleague was about to make.
Right.
House Bill 452.
Right.
Do you want to make a comment on the signage?
Okay,
Yeah, so as part of House Bill 452, now every hospital is required to put signage at entrances,
Okay.
ED rooms, and
Okay.
waiting rooms. Cleveland Clinic, as of last week, we've deployed almost 700 signs
Good.
across our entire Ohio platform, and are deploying similar signage to all of our Florida and Nevada platforms as well.
okay. So I want to make it clear. So the clinic will stand behind that employee that is affected as it pertains to the prosecution, will assist that employee. I want to make it clear, I want you guys to make it clear that that employee doesn't stand alone in their efforts if they need to prosecute.
Yeah, so we have a victim advocate program that not
Okay.
only supports patients who are victims of crime, but as well as caregivers.
Okay.
As well as many of our managers
Okay.
will follow through and be with those victims as well. I know I actually received an email yesterday about 2 of our nurse managers and our victim advocate supporting and attending a court hearing
Good.
with one of our caregivers who was a victim.
Okay, that's what we needed to hear, and that's been part of our discussions, the council president, myself, over this. As it pertains to the penalties for the viewing public, what are the penalties?
Through the chair to the councilman, the penalty for menacing against a healthcare worker is a first-degree misdemeanor.
So that
And
could
it
be-
carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 3 days in jail.
So it could be also 6 months in jail. And
Correct.
$1,000 fine.
Correct. Our ordinance, the court still has
Right.
the authority to impose greater penalties, but we
Okay.
wanted to make sure that there's a minimum penalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I keep asking myself, a reoccurring theme is, I'm living in a world I don't understand why you would threaten healthcare workers. Why you would go, they're trying to help you if you are a victim, or they're trying to assist or help maybe a family member or friend of yours, and you're in the hospital threatening people? I don't get this for the life of me. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to our attorney, this now mirrors state law, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, not exactly.
Is it greater?
It is greater.
Is this more stricter than the state law?
Just, yes.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to our attorney, is there any possibility, just like when we tried to increase our gun laws in the city of Cleveland, that somebody from the state will come down, sue us, do whatever, because it's more stricter than state law?
Through the chair, the council, in this particular ordinance, there's a very minimal risk of that, and the law department has approved this, because it's a very small difference.
I get it, but
The
it only
state-
takes
The
one.
state still has menacing, they just don't have the definition of healthcare worker and the higher for that, and we have a very strong legislative purpose.
Okay.
Akron also has a law.
Okay.
The law departments approved the ordinance.
All right,
Yeah.
and then, even though, Mr. Chairman, to our attorneys, that the clinic is here represented, this goes for anybody who would do something at UH,
Correct.
at Metro, but this does not include if somebody was to menace a healthcare worker at the clinic in Avon though, right? So even though they're at a Cleveland Clinic property, right? But they're in Avon.
Well, our jurisdiction is Cleveland.
No, I understand that, but I don't want it, or wherever a Cleveland Clinic, hospital is, this only pertains to the boundaries of the city of Cleveland, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, to our representative from the clinic, you indicated in your presentation that 1 in 22 victims, or the 1 in 22 healthcare workers are victims of a crime. And first of all, I think we should make clear what a healthcare worker is. Some people just think it would be like a social worker or something like that, but this includes doctors, nurses, everybody, basically, who is providing some sort of care for anybody, correct?
That would include any clinical, non-clinical employee
Okay.
at Cleveland Clinic.
All right. And then with 1 in 22 victims, Mr. Chairman, to our representative, who are the individuals, or is there any information out there on who's actually committing these crimes? So are we dealing with individuals who are coming into an ER dealing with a mental health crisis, or they've taken something that have taken them out of their state of mind, knowing that, in 2 hours they're going to be back in their normal state of mind? So who are actually committing these crimes against healthcare workers, if we know?
It varies across the entire spectrum. It could be patients, it could be visitors, it could be family members, it could be those individuals who aren't even there for care at Cleveland Clinic. It's people possibly under the influence, yes.
Okay.
Coming out of anesthesia, yes, but also those who may be of sound mind and
Right.
just
So there-
upset of a wait in an ED.
So, Mr. Chairman, to our representative, so there could be somebody who is coming out of an operation under anesthesia. We don't know how they're going to react, and all of a sudden they're not acting their normal self, but for the fact that they're coming out of a surgery or under anesthesia, they have a moment. There's a possibility that we could charge them, even though we know there's no history, there's no nothing, but because they had an incident, but for, we'll just say, the anesthesia, they could possibly face criminal charges.
Well, just on that point to the captain, to the chief, you indicated it's going to be, that officer, responding officer, is going to make a judgment call at that point, correct?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, and to the councilman. We still retain discretion
Okay.
in how we proceed in these incidents. So yes, we will take something like that into consideration on whether or not we proceed with court proceedings.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, to our attorney, under section 2, it looks like, where it says the mandatory minimum may be reduced for time served in the jail prior to sentencing, but then it also says a day of time served credit may not be used to reduce multiple mandatory minimum sentences. Does that mean somebody cannot get credit for time served on this, which means if they get arrested on a Friday and they don't have a hearing until Monday, we'll just say on Monday they plead out and they're found guilty, does this mean they do not get credit for time served?
Through the chair to the councilman, it means they can get credit for time served for one sentence, for one charge, rather, but they can't get service credit from that first charge toward the second charge. Does that make sense?
No.
If they're charged with two different charges, then multiple mandatory minimum sentences, then they can't get.
So if I get arrested,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, to our attorney, if I pick up the charge on a Friday, I plead out on Monday, I can possibly, we know it's up to the judge,
It's up to the
but I
judge.
could get credit for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and be done with it. If the judge,
You could,
Said.
if it's
That-
prior to
that's what I'm-
sentencing, correct.
right, if it's prior to
Yes,
sentencing.
but
So
then it says a daytime served credit may not be used to reduce multiple mandatory
No,
minimum sentences. So
right.
if you have multiple charges.
Right.
Then
So if you
that
pick up an
doesn't
assault
apply.
and a menacing.
Correct.
You can't, right. But this does give me credit for time, we're not taking away credit for time served.
Correct.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, you're welcome. Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones.
Thank you. Through the chair to the team here. Good morning. There are a couple of questions that I have. First, when you look at the requirements of, did you all go into what your workplace violence prevention security plan was? What is it, and has it been implemented?
Who? And again, identify yourself for the viewing public as well.
So Dallas Moyer with Cleveland Clinic. So by Joint Commission standards as well as House Bill 452, every hospital is required to have a workplace violence prevention program. That includes policies and procedures, offering of education and de-escalation training, as well as risk assessments and security assessments that are completed at every hospital on every unit. So we have submitted and complied with House Bill 452 with doing those. And I can tell you that we submitted over 300 attestations for all of our Ohio locations.
Okay, through the follow-up, through the chair to the team here, where exactly is that publicly available to the public, or is that something internally?
The policy and procedure are housed internally on our policy system. Outside of the signage required by House Bill 452, there is a patient pledge that's owned by our Ombudsman Office and our Office of Patient Experience that is listed on our website, stating that patients are to provide or to receive care respectfully, and that acts of violence, verbal and physical, will not be tolerated.
Okay, and just to follow up, through the chair to the team here, so can you also go into what is the actual reporting system regarding this workplace violence prevention, or what is included in the reporting system?
Moyer?
Thank you. Yes. With the system that we have, it allows a caregiver to put information pertaining to the situation as it happened, including observations that they have as to the state of the patient, when and where the event occurred, if there were any situations that they noticed prior to or leading up to the event, as well as an opportunity for an event description. And then that is followed up by multiple levels of review within the Cleveland Clinic leadership.
Okay, just a couple more questions through the chair to the team here. Can you go into the details of what is the training for the security personnel?
Well, Chief, would you care to comment?
And as it relates to workplace violence prevention, things of that nature, what does the training consist of?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, first of all, our police officers are mandated to have de-escalation training as required by the state of Ohio to be OPATA certified police officers. But beyond that, our police officers have additional de-escalation training. It was NAPI, give me the well training, which is additional training that healthcare workers go through in order to deal with or in order to serve that public that is in our hospital that we would have to de-escalate and bring down to a level that we can prevent violence from happening. We also do drills with our nursing team and our healthcare teams where police officers and the nursing staff will come together and simulate events that might occur within a room within the hospital, and they would do a drill in order to place restraints on an individual, to de-escalate an individual, and things of that nature, in order to make sure that the first time we come together as a team, that's not the first time that we're using some of the techniques that we need in order to secure an individual.
And so just to follow up through the chair to the team here, as you talk about the training that is given, the reporting that is utilized, can you talk about the difference when you look at the record of healthcare workers who have been assaulted in some form or fashion? Can you talk about, for those who were the alleged perpetrators, things of that nature, how many people are first-time offenders versus those who are multiple offenders?
Chief or Mr. Moyer?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, we don't have that statistic with us, but we'll be happy to get it back to the committee at a later date.
Okay. Through the chair to the team that is here, can you talk about what is the impact on trauma and people's behavior and responses?
Through the chair to the councilman, would that be for the patient or the victim of the workplace violence event?
Let's do both.
For the healthcare worker, it can cause potential days away from work or days restricted at work. There's psychological impacts. Some caregivers seek treatment for that, as well as physical. It impacts potentially patient care because the person's mind may be somewhere else, especially in the days or weeks following an event. With the patient, again, a workplace violence event could potentially impact their care. But it's hard to say on the patient aspect side what those impacts are, usually because they're the perpetrator and not the victim.
So through the chair to the team, so you're telling me that within the healthcare system, we don't understand the trauma of the alleged perpetrator during the time that the incident has happened? We don't understand the impact of trauma and what actually physiological happens when people are in a state of trauma and the responses that happen from trauma?
As an overall
The
look,
chair, please, through the chair.
excuse me,
That's right.
through the chair to the councilwoman, as an overall, no, but as we investigate those individual situations, it varies because with some people, one person's impact and psychological standing may be different than the next person and the next person. So at an individual level, yes, that can be understood through the post-event review.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that. But I have another question. Through the chair to the team here. The chief, you indicated that it is a judgment call when you are making the decisions of who you would determine to potentially prosecute or not. What does that mean? What is the standard of a judgment call when we talk about enforcement of this policy?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, police in misdemeanor situations, police have discretion on how to proceed with those incidents, not only on the menacing law that we're discussing today, but on any misdemeanor. A police officer will take into consideration what circumstances had occurred prior to the act being, the violation being committed. Based upon that and probable cause, a police officer may determine on whether or not a person should be arrested, if a person should be cited, if a person should be warned and sent. But that is the discretion that every police officer, not just Cleveland Clinic police officers, but every police officer in the state of Ohio has, is to make a discretionary decision based upon the circumstances. So in the situation that was discussed earlier, when a person is under the coming out of anesthesia, and if a police officer takes that into consideration and says that the intent of the individual was not to commit a violation, then the police officer at that point will certainly still document it by way of a report, but maybe not necessarily cite the individual or arrest that individual in accordance with what the law holds.
Okay. Through the chair to the team here, can you go into the differences of the biases and discrepancy just in providing health care to patients? And also, do you understand the discrepancy and biases many times in sentencing, arrests, of depending on the various demographics here in the city of Cleveland?
Who would care to comment on that?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I am not prepared or qualified to speak on the biases of discrepancies in health care.
Okay. All right. And so, again, I'm going to just raise up to the committee. Just in this, I'm very intentional in asking these questions. Specifically, if we are considering a policy that is going to be applied here in the city of Cleveland, I think it is our responsibility to ensure that it is clear of bias and discriminatory implementation, which we know it is rampant within our justice system. If we are talking about not understanding what is the actual physiological happenings when people are enduring trauma, what actually happens to people when they are experiencing trauma from the alleged perpetrators, not understanding that information and passing this policy, I think would be very detrimental. I will say, just for myself, giving my experience being a caregiver for my mother, being at Cleveland Clinic, I can tell you firsthand how police will be called on caregivers because people are not listening to those who are caregivers. And it does, a lot of times, I think that is impacted by what you look like, who you are. That's just based on my own experience. And I cannot in good conscience support this legislation without us having very clear standards, not based on people's judgment, because quite frankly, people's judgment have the bias and discrimination. When we talk about who will actually end up being sentenced and charged, statistically speaking, it will be more black and brown people that will absolutely get charged to this standard compared to others. And if you cannot provide me again, I don't think there's anybody that can provide any data to show that there's anything different. And this is no disregard or disrespect to our hard-working healthcare workers. I just want to be assured, and I think Clevelanders deserve to be assured that there would not be that this system that we are in are putting forth things that are doing all that we can to ensure that we are removing the bias and discriminatory practices that we know are still happening here in Cleveland, Ohio, in our justice system. That's how I feel. And again, if there's no information to say that there are processes that can assure that, I absolutely cannot support this policy, and I think we are doing ourselves a grave disservice by doing that without assurances that we are going to track the data, to actually track biases, being able to assure what does that mean, your own judgment. You know what I'm saying? What kind of standard and tools that are going to be used to implement in the system to ensure people who are going through trauma are treated as such. You know what I'm saying? Again, we always expect the people who are going through severe issues, you're in an environment to be helped, and then many times they are victimized. And again, your response at times is to lash out. And if you are going to a place that's supposed to help you and then end up being criminalized, and a lot of times, and you can't even tell me we're having this conversation and not to bring forth the data to talk about individuals who, was this their first time or if there were multiple offenders. Like, I really don't feel like at times we are thinking through what are we trying to accomplish? You know what I'm saying? And how are we going to partner with people and support them in some of their gravest hours? And if I hadn't had that personal experience in Cleveland Clinic where the police were called on me just to show up for my mother, because many times healthcare workers are not listening to people. They dismiss you. It is not right. And then to be criminalized for that, we need to come up with a better system.
Thank you. Councilman Slave.
Thank you, Councilman. And I certainly understand. I understand the issue. There are individuals, especially people on that social media kind of drives the zeitgeist. There are people who are come in and tend to be adversarial, and I understand why we need to correct about that. I will say it's not really a question as much to respond to, but I do share concerns about over-application. If someone were coming out of anesthesia, I can say there was a water main break on Lorraine Avenue a couple months ago, and all of the traffic from Lorraine Avenue was routed onto side streets. And it got to the point where an ambulance was stuck on the side streets and could not get to the hospital. And a resident came out, and it was Cleveland Clinic, not police, but staff who were directing traffic off of Lorraine and through very narrow side streets. And when the resident came out and said, you have to stop letting cars in. You have to let this clear. There's an ambulance that's stuck. It can't get through. Clinic staff told her she was interfering, called the clinic police on her. I don't know who said the word arrest, whether it was Cleveland Clinic police or Cleveland Clinic staff. The Cleveland Division of Police came, diffused the situation, took over the traffic monitoring. But an example like that, I don't want to create a scenario where in this someone intending to be helpful finds themselves running afoul of an issue. So a lot of my questions come down to application, and quite frankly, I'm not sure that the discussion that we'd have at the table here would completely satisfy my concerns of it being over-applied, because we can have a very reasonable conversation, but then we're relying on some later state. So I'm just going to put it out there that I understand the concern that Councilwoman House Jones has brought up. The one question I do have is within the definition of healthcare worker, so through the chair to our staff, it reads, healthcare worker means one who delivers care and or services to the sick and ailing, either directly as healthcare professionals, such as doctors or nurses. So that makes it clear that it's not exclusively doctors or nurses, but then, or indirectly as aides helpers, laboratory technicians, or medical waste handlers. My assumption is that the indirectly and then the examples is a non-exhaustive list of examples my question is there a scenario where someone providing indirect care but is not an aide, helper, lab tech, or medical waste handler could be excluded because it's not clear within the legislation that this is a non-exhaustive list?
Ms. O'Leary?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilperson, you bring up a good point. It does say, or indirectly as aides, helpers, laboratory technicians, or medical waste handlers. There is no and/or, there is no including but not limited to language, so I think your interpretation is right, that it is limited to those people.
So will you propose an amendment?
I would propose an amendment to add after indirectly as, comma, but not limited to, comma.
Okay. Where's our? Did the assistant law director, did you hear that? Yes. Okay. There's going to be, are you prepared to make that amendment now?
Yes, I propose it as stated.
Then go, restate it.
I propose to amend Section A as follows. After indirectly as, insert, comma, but not limited to, comma.
Second.
Okay. There's been a motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, he just changed it from the first time he stated it. The first time he stated it, the comma started right after indirectly, and the second time it started after as.
Thank you, Mary. I did add a third comma in there, didn't I? So we can, so indirectly as, comma, no, I do believe there needs to be two commas. Indirectly as, comma, but not limited to, comma, and then aides, helpers, lab techs.
Okay. Assistant Law Director, you have that?
Yep.
Okay. Been a motion made. It has been second. An amendment. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment is passed. Okay. Councilman Slife, you have any more questions? No. Okay. Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just have a question. I briefly read this over last night when I got it. My understanding is what I listened to my colleague, Councilwoman House. I definitely understand what she feels and spoke on, because myself, chair to the team, I worked at Cleveland Clinic Hospital for 14 and a half years. I worked at University Hospital for 9.5. So I understand her sentiments of how this may appear of the non-consideration of incidents that has happened in hospitals. Of my 21 years of experience of working at 2 different hospitals in administration, and as a laborer, to see some things that went on by me working in those environments per se. But however, my question is, I want to just go off what my colleague, just piggyback off my colleague said, that what statistics do you have to create this type of legislation for us to consider to pass of what incidents has happened with healthcare workers and responders to say that you want us to pass this ordinance? Chair to the team.
Prior to you arriving, they did a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, I wasn't here for it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking the
Okay, so it's
question.
on
I'm
your
sorry that
screen.
I'm late.
No, it's on, if you pull
Okay.
it up under
right.
presentation, you'll find it.
All right,
Because
okay.
it gives some statistics and figures.
Okay.
Okay.
Over how many, over the time frame? Okay, I wasn't here for that,
Okay,
sorry.
that's all right. You'll find it. Would you, while she's looking for that, would you care to comment based on your
Yeah.
presentation?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, are you talking about national statistics or Cleveland Clinic statistics?
Both.
Okay, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports are 2 years' worth of data for 21 and 22, in which new reports will be coming out next week. For Cleveland Clinic data, the increases that we listed were from 2023, so January 1st through October 31st, 2025, with that 34% increase in workplace violence event reporting.
Okay. Okay, my presentation won't come up. I can't see
Here,
it.
I'll let you look at mine.
All right, let me look at it. Okay.
Can I get a point of clarification on this 34%?
What,
I have a point.
you had a point?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, go
asking,
ahead.
just one point of clarification. Through the chair to the team here, you said 34%. Is that including both physical and verbal assaults, or is it just physical? And then do you have the data, the understanding for the alleged perpetrators? How many of them were first-time offenders versus not?
Thank you. Can you respond? You have that data?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, the 34% increase is for all types of workplace violence events, both verbal, physical. The data for first-time offenders is something that we would have to dig deeper in because of the reporting system we use for the victim to report doesn't take into account or have space for them to put that in because they may or may not know if that person is a first-time offender, but we are able to pull that data through other systems.
Okay, thank you. Go. Ms. Gray?
Okay, yes. Okay, thank you for this. What's that? Okay. So is this, chair to the team, is this just a focus on Cleveland Clinic only, or the other hospitals are also integrated into this study and this legislation?
It's all healthcare
All healthcare-
facilities in
all
the city.
healthcare facilities,
In
okay.
the city.
All right. Okay, give me a second, sorry. Okay. All right, so I just have one question, and I just want to be respectful to my colleague, Councilwoman House. You know, she had chaired to the team. You know, she is basically, her and Saif and Amala had put out the Tanisha law, per se. How that is this similar like a reverse to, because the Tanisha law is put out for our citizens who have been dealing with incidents when they're dying from coming to homes, and responders not able, the police department, the police office not able to take care of certain situations, and we have our citizens who have passed away, dealing with dealing with incidents like that. So it's almost like a reverse situation that we're looking at from one law to the next.
Would someone care to comment on that? Tanisha, we have not, Tanisha's legislation came back to us, so we'll be
Yes.
scheduling that shortly.
Okay.
This is directly pertaining to healthcare workers and threats and assaults
understand
being
that.
directed against them, and the concerns that has been expressed to the council president, myself, and others, it is on the increase in our medical institutions. And some of you might recall, we've had to assign violence interrupters to UH in their emergency room
I
because
understand.
of confrontations there, and growing confrontations. So that's what this legislation is about, to try to attempt to address that.
Okay, we all have different questions, Chair.
Okay,
Okay, so I can clarify some things for myself.
Go ahead.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
thank you.
So I was just bringing up that point because because we have one situation on one end, then now we have another situation on the other end. And I know we're trying to to ensure that we have a safe environment in both areas pertaining to our citizens and also pertaining to our healthcare workers. So I'm just trying to clarify, both issues have been raised on both ends to secure that we have to look at that as a whole for the citizens also in our communities, not just one particular area. Because I have, like I said, I spent 21 years in the healthcare, and I've seen a lot myself in those 21 years. So I do understand, but I also am a citizen in my community, not as well as a council, to see things that has affected the community too as well. So we all have voices on both ends of the stick to understand the clarity and the definitions of what we need to pass on both ends. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I have the screen back? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Councilman Slife, you had something else you wanted to add?
Yes, I asked two questions and I made an assumption, I asked a question, and then we made an amendment off the question. So just to clarify through the chair to staff, the language of direct healthcare professionals such as doctors or nurses, my assumption is that the such as language means that doctors and nurses is a non-exhaustive list. So my wife, for example, who is a speech language pathologist, would be covered. She does not work in Cleveland. Because of the such as language. Is that a correct interpretation of how this would look, or is there also language in the direct healthcare portion of the definition that needs to emphasize that it's not exclusively doctors or nurses, but would include someone like a physical therapist or a speech language pathologist?
Ms. O'Leary?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's a good question, and I agree with you that because it says such as, it would include other healthcare providers. And it's basically one who delivers care and/or services to the sick or ailing. So I think a physical therapist would be.
Okay.
Yeah, it says such as doctors or nurses.
Okay, under an abundance of caution, Chairman, could I add or propose a second amendment?
Yes, you
that
may.
is similar, that in the section A, after such as include, comma, but not limited to, comma.
Okay, restate that for the Assistant Law Director again.
Yes, for the law director in section A, it would read, as healthcare professionals, comma, or as healthcare professionals such as, comma, but not limited to, comma, doctors or nurses, et cetera.
Okay. Got it? Okay, there's been a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? On the amendment proposed? Okay, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Okay, so I have, any other members of the committee would like to comment at all? You have, to our staff, any final comment before I call the roll?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Chairman, one point of clarification. I may have misunderstood to some point or some degree Councilman House's question regarding bias. I thought she was asking about bias as it pertains to how medical care is given in the. Okay. Again, I can't speak to that, but I do want to speak real quickly, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
about as far as police officers responding. Our officers go through bias-free training to make sure that they respond appropriately to anyone that calls for services within the Cleveland Clinic system. Not only that, because of our memorandum of understanding with the city of Cleveland, all of our police officers have body cameras. So each one of these incidents are recorded. Each incident is reviewed. If there's a complaint, the Cleveland Clinic has a civilian review board within itself that will hear complaints about police conduct or complaints of biases. So these situations and accusations of biases are taken very seriously within our department, and they're acted upon appropriately. And I just wanted to share that with the
And
council.
I'm glad you said that, because I, through to the memorandum of understanding, is that you must adhere, not just Cleveland Clinic Police, but the other agencies. We have memorandums in effect. They do have to adhere to bias-free policing. Okay, so I'm glad you clarified that. Councilman Starr.
Can I just follow
when-
up on these 2 points?
We have Councilman Starr.
Okay, I'll come back.
Will you yield?
Yes.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Just through the chair to the chief, as you've talked about, 2 points, the bias-free training and things of that nature. Have you all had an assessment of the training and implementation of your bias-free implementation,
Okay, whoever can respond.
as you have
back.
indicated?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, we, again, because of our memorandum of understanding, our training and has to align with the City of Cleveland training, which is approved by the Department of Justice, from my understanding.
Yes.
So our training will be in line with what they teach their officers and how they train their officers. And I'm very confident in the amount of training and the type of training that the officers receive as a result of that.
Well, I know that, so that wasn't the question.
I'm sorry.
Through the chair to the chief, my question was, what was the assessment of it? So it's one thing to have training and saying these are the policies. It's another thing to actually have it assessed to say that the things that we were training, we actually are fully implementing of it?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question through the chair to the councilwoman. The Cleveland Clinic Police Department is CALEA accredited. CALEA is the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. They promote themselves on the website as being the gold standard in policies. And what CALEA officials will do is every 4 years, they will come in, they will review all of our policies as it pertains to how our officers respond to things, and then we have to show proofs that we are abiding by the policies that are in place. We just received our reaccreditation about 2 months ago. I'll be happy to share that with the council if
Thank you.
the council chooses.
Thank you.
All right, and the last
Okay.
part, through the chair, that still didn't answer my question about the assessment of bias, but I'm going to leave that alone. The last question, through the chair to the chief, you talked about the Civilian Review Board. I guess the question that I do ask is, how many people and how many cases that have been brought forth for your Civilian Review Board have been in pertaining to workplace violence against healthcare professionals?
Thank
So
you.
people
She's
that
still
have
on a point, so I want
Yeah.
you to respond, and then we'll.
Yeah,
call
you can move on.
Councilman
That was
Starr.
my last question.
Through the chair to the council, to the first question, Councilwoman, the assessment is done by CALEA, so that assessment has been completed. And to the question that you just asked, the Civilian Review Board will hear situations in which police misconduct has taken place, not necessarily workplace violence, but if there is an accusation that a police has not performed in accordance with our policies, that is the purpose of the Police Review Board.
Thank you. So whatever, I would say, between now and the Finance Committee, whatever additional information you can put together for us, would certainly would be appreciative. Councilman Starr.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be real brief to the chair. When we're talking about this ordinance number 138-180-2025,
Yes.
just want to make sure some of the points that Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones brought up is making sure those individuals who have mental health challenges, and if they're coming from a surgery or a procedure and they wake up and they're not as normal as anyone would be, are they going to be the ones getting arrested just because they don't know where they at or they've been through a procedure? Like, how are we actually evaluating and assessing those cases than just locking them up and making them having to pay a fine or sitting in jail? Do we have anything or any protocols in place to ensure that that does not happen? Because therefore, then that's when biases does occur within the healthcare field. So how are we making sure we got things in place to help assist with those different cases? To the chair.
Chief?
Through the chair to the councilman, again, as I stated earlier, officers will use discretion. Officers understand that the courts will not take certain cases, and then we have situations that occur in the instance or the example that you just used, understanding that the court probably will not take a case like that, the officer will not effect an arrest.
I
Wait a minute.
would like to also weigh in
Yeah,
here through the chair to the
go ahead.
councilman. There's something in the language here, I think, that helps with that, at least for people under
Okay.
anesthesia. The standard is that if the victim of the offense is a healthcare worker whom the offender knows or has reason to know is a healthcare worker performing their duties. So there has to be an awareness, going to your question about, people under anesthesia or with maybe mental health issues.
Okay.
I think that could be helpful as a standard.
Councilman?
And through that protocol, on what type of training are we providing with the officers once this is passed, or if this is passed, for them to understand this is the changes that is happening, and this is the difference between discretionary or just your judgment or anything, because no one's perfect. No one's perfect in this world. Everyone has flaws. But there are cases where someone may be biased towards, and they deal with the situation. Now a person is locked up, or they got to pay this $1,000 fine, and all these different things because that just happened. I just want to make sure we are not passing something where we're going to look at, and it's just different people from Ward 5 that going through different things, going through a surgery, going through a procedure, and next you know they wake up and they're not themselves, and they're flipping out because they don't have a loved one. They're on their own. They don't know exactly what just happened. They may have been under anesthesia for a couple days, and they flip out. And do they cause any major harm or concerns? Maybe you have a doctor or a nurse or someone who's like, oh, no, we ain't having this, and they're having a bad day. Now this person is being locked up, and there's there's a fine line or a thin line for us to be able to cross to determine who's at risk or what is not at risk. And now we're talking about we're going to give the officers their discretionary credit to be able to do this. Like, is this something that makes sense for us to actually change? Even though I see this was written in 1974, I think Dean Palencia sponsored this.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I know exactly what are we actually doing? What is the change for? And how does it relate to where we are at today? Through the chair.
Well, through the chair of the councilman, I do want to point out that this law is on the books now. Anyone can be, they have the discretion to charge anyone now with menacing.
Yes.
Anyone, including a healthcare worker. The only thing this ordinance really does is increase the penalty.
Okay.
And as a deterrent.
Right.
To try to have it be a deterrent. The judges still have discretion.
In light why why this discussion took place is because the numbers that have been presented is the increase, not only at the clinic, but across the entire city as it pertains to healthcare workers being put in harm's way and under great stress. So that's why this action was taken. Councilman, any other questions?
Yep, so you said we're bringing this before because
Okay.
based on the data that is provided by the clinic, that a lot of healthcare providers are being physically attacked and harmed. Through the chair, is that what we're saying?
Yes.
And since that-
I'll relay that back to the chief and to Mr. Moore. Go ahead.
Through the chair to the councilman, the data is for all events. So it's not just physical events, it is physical and verbal events in the counts that, but we are seeing increases in both just physical events as well as verbal. So it's across the board that the number of events are increasing.
So how do we handle, through the chair, an incident where patient felt as if they were treated misfair? Is anybody getting arrested from their standpoint, or do they have to try to go through a whole paperwork process, or do they have to prove themselves being a victim, as opposed to if a healthcare worker just say, hey, we buzzed and call Cleveland Clinic Police to come up because they feel this patient is out of ordinary, or they're acting out, or they're physically abusing, or they're anything like that? How do we make sure the balance is fair? Because anyone could say, cry wolf and say this happened and this happened, but if they're the actual doctor or employee at the hospital, they supersede versus the actual patient who may be dealing with something from their perspective? Or do we just say, hey, because you're a patient and we feel like you're on our campus, you did X, Y, and Z now, therefore we're calling the police to arrest you? To the chair.
Okay. To
Through
Chief.
the chair to the councilman, I think this goes back to what I spoke about earlier, and that is every incident that a police officer, a Cleveland Clinic police officer is involved in is evaluated, is reviewed and evaluated, and based upon what has occurred during that incident, we will take appropriate action. We also, again, we will act on any complaints that come against police officers. So if a patient feels that he was treated inappropriately by a Cleveland Clinic police officer and files a complaint, that complaint will be funneled into our Civilian Review Board process and reviewed. And with that, they also have the option, because we reside within the city of Cleveland, to file their complaint with the city of Cleveland as well. So there are multiple options that a patient can file if they feel that they have been mistreated by a Cleveland Clinic police officer.
And then also, through that point, through the chair, is there, can I put a request out for us to possibly see from this number of increase of incidents, do we have any ethnicity background breakdown of this data? Can we see anything that show how many people that were black, brown, white, young, age, or, I mean, to say this is how this has increased take up? Because just seeing a number saying there's been 6,000 plus potential victims in the city of Cleveland, can we have a detailed breakdown of who is what?
Do you keep, to the chief and to Mr. Moore, do you have any demographic breakdowns of the individuals?
To the chair of the councilman, we would have to do some work to pull that because it's separate systems, but that is information we could take a look at
Okay.
and pull for you.
Okay,
And then I would make a point through the chair, before we pass this out of committee or anywhere, can we have that data before we be able to look at that? Because I do not want to see residents being targeted in certain areas due to the fact of their challenges that they have while they're going through the healthcare systems, to be victimized of something that we pass in an increased fine and penalties of going to jail, which could be targeting through my standpoint, through the chair.
okay. So the pleasure of the committee will be do we hold this or move this on the finance with the hope, not the hope, the request that the information that we requested will be provided at the finance table. So it's a pleasure of the committee at this point. Yes, Mr. Casey.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that we pass this out of committee, but then know that if it's, the information is not provided at finance, that it should be held at finance.
Okay, that's reasonable. Okay, then with.
I don't agree with that, so we probably should take a
Okay,
roll call.
So then we'll take a roll call. So are there any other questions on ordinance number 1380-2025? Any additional questions before we call the roll?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My last question. Do you all have the information as it relates to the current standard? Do you have the data information of how many individuals and the breakdown of how many people have been currently charged with medicine as it relates to this policy? And the breakdown in the demographics and those who may be first-time
So
offenders?
we'll request that, and you'll have that information for us. And I would go back to the first.
Well, no, I was asking the question.
Oh.
We're talking about it, so I was asking to the team here. And as before we pass legislation, we should probably understand the actual standard right now of what is happening to menacing currently right now for healthcare workers. I think that is relevant information.
Okay, thank you. So I would make the request.
No, I was asking the team that's here today.
Okay. And are there any more requests? Okay.
Yeah,
so
no, the chair, I'm asking them, do you have the information?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilwoman, we don't have that information with us today. We can provide that information, keeping in mind that we would only be providing information from the Cleveland Clinic
That's
healthcare
fine.
system,
Right.
and that there are other healthcare systems that might impact your opinion. Their statistics might impact your opinion on this matter.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So I would ask of staff if you can make a request of UH and Metro.
Sure.
Especially where the trauma units are at. That would be very important. That would be where we would get a good indication of what's going on.
And probably the VA as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
May I
Any
say
other
something?
requests?
Yes, well, that's what I asked earlier when I asked about the data, but you said that they had the presentation and I missed it. And I know that even though they had the presentation, Chair, that's what I was inquiring about. What data do they have to show about the incidents at the, at these facilities, at all the hospitals? And I just want to share just a short
Sure.
story. Going back to Councilwoman House said, even VA, I worked at VA too, which I did not state that earlier. VA was one of the first hospitals that I worked at, and I was very young at that time. and I was working with the patients. And by me not knowing the different backgrounds or the healthcare incidents of the patients that was there, I was caring for patients at VA and did not know the understanding of VA patients. So this one patient that I was taking care of at that time, he approached me, and he approached me out the blue and said, "I'm going to choke you by your neck until you dead, dead, dead." And that scared the heck out of me. I was terrified. So when I stepped out the room and I went and told the head nurse, she gently told me about his medical condition. So these are great examples that my colleagues are bringing up. How do we understand the medical condition, a condition of a patient if you're not aware of the care of the patient? And I wasn't a caregiver. I wasn't a nurse. I was a student from the school, just obtaining a job for the summer, and that was one of my job positions, is to assist the nurses to do certain job duties for the patients. And I did not go and report it per se because I was so young, but the head nurse herself, they was able to take care of that situation. So that's what I'm saying, in the sense of we need to understand the background of our patients and, and the type of care of these patients, needs per se.
Thank you. Okay. We have the legislation before us. You hear our requests. Hope to get that by the Finance Committee. Metro, Lewis Stokes Medical. Okay. I'm going to call the roll. So without objection, ordinance number 1380 as amended, 2025. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Then the legislation, I'll discuss this with the council
It
president.
does not pass.
I understand that. It didn't pass. Okay. Thank you.
No, I just wanted to
Yeah,
say that
yeah.
because the last time we had a split, it moved on to the next committee.
It can be relieved. It can be relieved.
It cannot be relieved if it did not fail. It would have to be brought back up, and then it would actually have to pass unless it's
Okay,
introduced
thank-
directly
thank
to
you.
the committee.
I'll differ with you, but we'll move on. So thank you very much. For those of you who are here, you'll provide that information for us. Thank you. Our next topic is going to be ShotSpotter. Thank you.
Okay.
I know it can. Okay. Pardon? No. I was, but I decided not to. Okay. Administration, we have folks here from CSU. We have presenters from CSU, and I would like to bring them to the table. Rachel Lavelle, and I hope I pronounced that right, and Stephanie Kent from CSU would please come to the table. To my colleagues and to the viewing public, when City Council passed the legislation that was requested by the administration pertaining to implementation of the ShotSpotter program, part of that overall discussion was that there had to be a review of the program. So that has taken place. All of you should have received I'm trying to think, 185 page report from CSU. Did we pay you by the page, or what was that? That's what I wanted to know. Okay. By CSU as it pertains to the ShotSpotter system that is within the city of Cleveland. For the viewing public, Most of you have heard of ShotSpotter. A comment about ShotSpotter, it was initially 3 square miles. It was expanded to 13 square miles. It was to address areas with high levels of gun violence and where residents were not calling the Division of Police, 911, or reporting and areas where, again, shots were being fired. So before I call upon the CSU representatives, I would ask the Safety Director for your comment. The original legislation, look for it right now, was ordinance number, let me see.
Nine,
Yep. Yeah.
909, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 909-2022.
Yeah, I'm looking for a number, yeah, 909-2022, and then there was an amendment made as well to that legislation. So, Director, go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning.
Identify yourself for the viewing public.
Sure. Good morning, council members. Wayne Drummond, Director of Public Safety, and with me to my left are the professors from Cleveland State, Dr. Stephanie Kent and Dr. Rachel Lovell. Did I pronounce your last name right? Okay, thank you. And to my right is Lavelle. Yeah, see, Lovell, I thought. Thank you. And to my right is Assistant Director Jason Schachner, and to his right is Captain Matthew Gallagher from the Division of Police, who is basically a point person for ShotSpotter or gunshot technology, detection technology. I just have some opening remarks, and then we'll
Go ahead.
Ready, available for questions. All right, ordinance number 909-2022, which authorized the city to enter into an agreement with ShotSpotter Inc., or now they're called Sound Thinking. Additionally, mandated an independent evaluation of the use of the technology. The City commissioned Cleveland State University's Criminology Research Center to conduct a 2-year evaluation of the Division of Police implementation of ShotSpotter. The report is a thorough and balanced assessment of the technology's use in our city, and is you guys already received the report itself.
Yes.
The city has carefully reviewed the findings and acknowledges both the positives and the limitations of ShotSpotter as summarized. Start with number 1, generally accurate, faster response, and evidence collection. And I'll go into that a little bit more.
Yes.
The CSU evaluation found that ShotSpotter, and this is quote, ShotSpotter has well-documented ability to detect gunfire versus other sounds, end quote, and is more accurately located than 911 calls. This is CSU report page 23. Because of this improved precision, ShotSpotter can result in police response for gunfire not reported to police, or a quicker response, police response, and / more accurately located police response than 911 calls. That's from their report, same page, which is page 23. In addition, CSU noted that the technology supports investigators by improving evidence collection, such as locating bullet casings and providing incident timelines that can help identify shooters and corroborate cases. Again, CSU report, page 94. Number 2, no Fourth Amendment concerns. The CSU evaluations explicitly found in this quotation no evidence that identified significant Fourth Amendment concerns regarding ShotSpotter as implemented by the Cleveland Division of Police. Sensors rarely captured voices, and when they do, the voices are muffled, the person's words are imperceptible. That's again, CSU report, page 15 and 16. Number 3, not a standalone solution. While ShotSpotter helps police respond faster to gunfire and collect more forensic evidence, the study notes, and again, quotation, by itself, ShotSpotter does not directly reduce crime. It is an after-the-fact technology. Again, CSU report, this is page 13. Number 4, an important tool in a broader strategy. The evaluation confirms that ShotSpotter is a useful tool for situational awareness, but it must be paired with other technologies and strategies to maximize, I need to put my glasses on, maximize impact. As the report states, ShotSpotter is difficult to incorporate with other types of policing technologies unless deliberately aligned with other tools. Again, CSU report, page 14. And number 5, looking ahead, newer technologies. Newer technologies have emerged since Cleveland first implemented the technology in 2020 that addressed many of the shortcomings identified in the report. Integration of real-time surveillance cameras, license plate readers, and data analytics with gunshot detection technology will provide a more complete picture for investigators and allow for more proactive and effective safety responses. The city will engage a new vendor that integrates these complementary technologies into a unified system enabling a seamless information sharing and enhanced situational awareness within the Division of Police. The CSU evaluation provides the city with a useful picture of ShotSpotter's role in Cleveland. It is not an all-encompassing solution to violent crime, but can be an important and effective when deployed thoughtfully and in combination with other technologies. The city will continue to evaluate the integrate improved gunshot technology along with other innovations to improve public safety, protect civil liberties, and build trust within the community. With that, we are available for any questions that the committee may have.
Okay. Would anyone else from your team care to comment?
And not just particular times, just we're here for questions, and obviously we have the professors here from the doctors from Cleveland State that can answer questions as well.
So let me preface and frame it as this. Obviously, the ShotSpotter legislation initially came to us at the request of the administration by departmental request. We have also, this council has taken aggressive action as it pertains to technology. We've implemented the body cams, dash cams. We have passed legislation to overhaul and put back up in the sky our 2 police helicopters. We passed the drone legislation, which the training is being carried out right now, right?
That's correct, through the chair, correct. They're up and working.
So we have taken what I like to think to be very aggressive action as it pertains to technology in light of the fact that we are still down within the numbers within the Division of Police. And as of today, we have 1,151 officers. We have 78 recruits, and to date, we have 82 officers that have left due to retirement or for other reasons. So we're very much aware that we still remain very challenged in the city with regard to having men and women in blue patrolling our neighborhoods, and that's why we continue to do everything we can and working with the administration with regard to recruitment. But again, we're looking at technology and how it can enhance our ability to provide better policing within the city of Cleveland. So at this time, I'm going to call upon the 2 CSU researchers who put together this lengthy report on the ShotSpotter system. And I would also indicate that in the audience, we have representative of the ShotSpotter here in attendance as well. So at this time, whoever would like to start, I have again Rachel Lavelle and Stephanie Kent. Who would like to kick it off?
I'll go ahead. Stephanie Kent, Cleveland State University. First of all, good morning, Council, Chair, committee members. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about our results.
Okay.
Sorry, I get close here. As you all know, you requested the evaluation to provide some independent data-driven insights into how it's been implemented, whether it's useful to police operations, and how, in addition, it affects community trust and perception of policing in Cleveland.
Yes.
And so those being the questions, our evaluation had 2 major goals. First, to assess the usefulness and the effectiveness of ShotSpotter to Cleveland Police in terms of does it improve response times and other outcomes, evidence recovery, investigation aid, et cetera. And then the second one being assessing community perception. So how do residents view the use of ShotSpotter? Does it influence trust, legitimacy, perceptions of fairness in policing? And so in terms of methodologies, we took a mixed methods approach, combining quantitative and qualitative data and methods. In terms of goal 1, we looked at data from ShotSpotter alerts, quantitative data, and compared them with 911 data. We conducted field observations of officers using ShotSpotter in real time. I distributed an online survey to officers, held interviews with police personnel and others who use ShotSpotter data. And then in terms for goal 2, we reviewed, which is community perception, we reviewed public comments about ShotSpotter, conducted in-person and online community surveys, and observed and interviewed residents in the communities. So importantly, our evaluation looked not just at the outcomes that the technology produced, but also how it was implemented by officers and experienced by residents, because any tool is only as good as it is used by the people who are using it. So in terms of findings, basically we found 6 main ones. We found that generally ShotSpotter is accurate in terms of identifying gunfire. There were some concerns about false alerts or errors expressed by Cleveland Police, but overall, based on officer feedback and our process evaluation, the technology appears mostly reliable when detecting gunfire. Secondly, not surprisingly, ShotSpotter increases priority 1 calls for service, the highest priority. So when ShotSpotter is deployed, it generates new emergency calls that wouldn't have come through otherwise, since if people aren't calling 911. Now, of course, this means more gunfire incidents are receiving a response, but it also creates more strain on police resources. So we did find longer response times for priority 1 calls overall, and that officers reported that the increases in calls from ShotSpotter sometimes reduce their ability to address lower priority issues or quality of life issues, which community members also noticed in our discussions. As mentioned already, ShotSpotter functions largely as a standalone tool, so it's not easily integrated with some of the other police technologies that are being used currently in Cleveland. And part of this is due to data collection data needs to be entered in multiple places, which also limits its potential value for long-term strategic crime analysis. Again, as mentioned, ShotSpotter does not directly reduce crime, but it does help police respond to confirmed gunfire. There's no real evidence of a deterrent effect, partially because potential offenders likely don't know where or whether the technology is operating. And while response times may be improved, because the technology is able to pinpoint the location more accurately than a 911 caller might, the response time is not fast enough to really change the outcome in most cases. In terms of public opinion about the use of ShotSpotter, we found it was mixed across the residents that we surveyed and interviewed and observed. Residents did express concerns about accuracy, cost, surveillance potential, and many voiced preferences for alternative public safety investments. So we heard a lot about wanting more investment in community programs or mental health resources as a concern for the residents. That being said, we did not find any evidence in our observation and assessment of the use of ShotSpotter that Cleveland Police is using it in any way to violate Fourth Amendment rights, or we did not find any legal concerns raised among our observations. Finally, as mentioned, we find ShotSpotter to be supplemental but not an essential tool. It does occasionally aid investigations, but is rarely the sole source leading to any arrest or life-saving intervention. In fact, in all but one of the cases where officers rendered first aid at a gunfire scene that were that were started by a ShotSpotter call, a 911 call had also been made. So that's an important finding as well. We wanted to mention that our evaluation did was unique compared to most prior evaluations, in that we focused more on implementation, not just those outcomes. How is it being used day to day, and also compared to other studies, looking at the voices of the residents. That's not something that most evaluations have done in the past, and so we thought that was an interesting request from council and found that was very useful. And so even we did find that many of the community members didn't necessarily know about ShotSpotter prior to our study or to us speaking with them, but we did find that the residents of Cleveland are deeply concerned about the frequency of gunfire and violent crime, and they'd like to see Cleveland Police receive additional resources to support these crime prevention efforts. As with every evaluation, we have some limitations. They're noted in the report, but just to quickly go over those, we did rely on non-random samples and existing CDP data systems, so we were not able to devise a completely experimental approach, which would have been ideal. Second, data availability limited the depth of our quantitative analysis as much as we would have liked, and of course, we did not have full access to any of the proprietary data or information from Sound Thinking in terms of how their process happens, and in order to evaluate that. But nevertheless, we have a lot of different methods that we used, and we feel like that we triangulated the sources so that we have confidence in the robustness of our findings. Again, we didn't have a single yes or no judgment on whether the benefits of ShotSpotter outweigh its costs, but our findings indicate that it does help CDP respond to more confirmed gunfire than would be possible otherwise. We did find that even when it's paired with the 911 call, ShotSpotter does often alert police sooner, which could potentially increase opportunities for finding victims, evidence recovery. But as we said, in terms of life-saving action, these are cases in which 911 was typically called anyways. And we would also just note that most alerts did not lead to any actionable outcome in terms of arrests, charges, et cetera. So at that point, we just leave it up to all of you to make the decision on whether you all think this is something that's worth the resources. And we hope that this information is useful to you and helpful to you in making your decision. And I want to thank you for your attention to the evaluation and the opportunity to conduct this work.
Thank you, thank you. Would you care to comment? Yeah, okay. Okay, so for the viewing public, this was conducted by tell us by what section at CSU?
So we are professors of criminology in the Department of Criminology and Sociology at the Criminology Research Center. So we have a research center.
Okay. So what I also think is important from my standpoint of my colleagues, this is an opportunity for us to think about where we could perform additional oversights in other departments and divisions utilizing CSU. So that's what the other side of from my perspective, that I thought was very important, that we're partnering. This is a partnership with CSU, and I hope we can continue this partnership within other departments and divisions as it pertains to getting independent oversight, independent review that would be very helpful to the council. So based on, to the director, based on the comments that have been made here, do you have any additional things you'd like to add? I will.
Not this particular time. The report speaks for itself. We trust the doctors there did an outstanding job. It was a well-balanced report, and we knew that it would be positives and negatives from the report. It's important to note that this is one technology amongst many that we have here in the Division of Police in the city of Cleveland. This is a tool, one tool, again, amongst many tools that we use to hopefully drive down crime, stop violent crime in our city.
Okay. Let me ask a few questions. I'm open up to my colleagues. In the course of your report and your interviewing, what was the feedback, or if there was feedback, why people are not calling 911?
We found a number of reasons why commonalities in the survey and observations and interviews. Some of these were people who did not feel like they were not sure where the gunfire may have been coming from, or they didn't feel like they had enough information that would be helpful to police. Some people said that there was a number of people who said that they would rather not get police involved because they were worried about any backlash from neighbors for calling police. There were definitely some trust issues with police mentioned about why they don't call 911. But also people said most of the time when there's something really like serious, if they were to see somebody hurt or shot, they would call. That was a, yeah.
So again, because we initially, that came before us was 3 square miles, and then 13 square miles. And to the viewing public, to the director, could you give some basic proximity of where that was at geographically?
Good Chair. Initially, the initial phase of the program started in the 4th District. Certain areas in the 4th District, I don't have the areas in front of me. I see that Jason is feverishly looking up those areas so he can give you precise location. But it is in the report, and that's what he's looking for right now. Initially started 3 square miles in the 4th District based on data. Data's homicides, felon assault shootings, and other factors. Based on that information, that data, the 3-mile area was selected. It was expanded, as you know, into 13 total square miles. And the same thing, the data was selected, again, homicides, felon assault shootings, and maybe 1 or 2 other data points in those particular areas were selected as well. And again, I want to give you the relative exact locations. And
so the area, the initial area was in the Buckeye Road area, if I'm not mistaken.
We're going to give you the exact locations. Assistant Director Shackner has those.
Assistant Director, identify yourself for the viewing public.
Assistant Director Jason Shackner. I could give you within the district, not exactly less.
Okay.
So what was activated on November 3rd, 2020 was 3 square miles in District 4. On April 10th, 2023, 2.5 square miles in District 5. On April 24th, 2023, 1 square mile in District 3. On May 31st, 2020, 1.83 square miles in District 4, so additional.
Yes.
June 30th, 2023, 0.67 square miles in District 4, so some additional. May 15th, 2024, 1 square mile in District 1 was activated, and on May 15th, 2024, 2 square miles in District 2 were activated.
So basically, what we would refer to as the core city.
Through the Chair, that would be accurate, yes.
Okay. To the researchers, how critical, based on the ShotSpotter system that is in place now, how critical is the number of officers working the street to respond? Was there any correlation? Identify yourself.
Hi.
And pull the mic up close. Okay.
Sorry, thank you. We don't typically, just pull it close? Okay, yeah, perfect. We don't typically come, and so thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
It is vital that there are officers and have the staffing to be able to respond to these because ShotSpotter on average produced about 20 additional calls per day. And they're all priority 1 calls, so life or death calls. So it is critical to have staffing to be able to respond to those calls. As well as the other calls that officers also have. ShotSpotter, because they are alerting them to gunfire, will produce, and other studies have shown that as well, they produce, more needs for service.
Okay. Because that's something, again, that obviously, because again, the council has taken great steps to, we funded the hiring of 180 officers this year. We've passed the hiring bonus. We increased the age for officers. We've given officers the right to have tattoos, beards, wear ball caps. Did I miss something? And I don't think I missed anything. Tattoos.
Tattoos, yeah, that's correct.
So we've done everything we can to try to encourage more men and women in the city of Cleveland to become members of the Division of Police, but we still are nowhere where we need to be. And so one of the issues with ShotSpotter, from going over the report, and you just alluded to it, it's a priority 1 call, so then that takes priority over everything else as it pertains to response. And so it does then we have then a domino effect on other calls for service. That's become very clear to me going through the report. And let me just say again to the viewing public, within the council, there are some people who've been strong advocates of ShotSpotter. There have been other council people who've raised concerns whether it was is a cost-effective approach. There are other members of council who would like to see more safety and security cameras put up outside of ShotSpotter. So there's different opinions, different thoughts within the body, and that's why I'm very appreciative of the due diligence and the work that you did, because we want to make the right decisions here. We want not only the right decisions, but we have to look at the financial aspect of this, because I think we all know we're not going to get any additional help out of Washington, D.C. We seem not to be getting any help out of Columbus, Ohio. So the dollars that we collect, the revenue we collect, we have to make sure, especially for the Division of Police and public safety in general, which is about 60% of the overall budget, we have to make sure we're being smart due to the implementation of programs and initiatives that we do. So I also have in attendance representative of ShotSpotter, and I'm going to ask them to come up to the table in a moment and make some comments as well, because to the director and to the assistant director, the ShotSpotter legislation terminates when?
No. We'll get the exact date.
Yeah. As you look for that. And obviously the administration has submitted legislation with regard to going down a different path with flock safety. And that legislation, we have staff looking at that now. We haven't scheduled a date on that. So it's the opinion, I want to get it clear at the table, it's the opinion of the administration that you do not plan on renewing the ShotSpotter contract. Is that correct?
Through the chair to council members, we are evaluating all technologies, and Flock is one of the technologies that we're evaluating. Obviously, you have the legislation that's you mentioned before.
Right.
But our intent is to evaluate other technologies, and Flock is one of those technologies, make sure we have the best possible technology that integrates with our current systems.
So you're trying to be politically correct at the table. So you are, again, you are not going to renew the ShotSpotter.
Through the chair, at this particular point, that's correct.
Okay.
To the chair.
Yes.
Just to answer your previous question, the ShotSpotter contract or Sound Thinking contract expired November 2nd,
Right.
2025, and I just want to briefly touch on your point about the staffing levels that it takes to respond to the priority
Okay.
one calls.
Go ahead.
We really did evaluate this report and take the recommendations and insights
Yes.
to heart. One, as you see throughout the report, is the placement of the sensors from Sound Thinking. They're placed to maximize coverage area in certain spaces, whereas our surveillance cameras and our license plate readers are placed according to the data and the most effective locations like high incidence crime areas, high trafficked intersections and things like that. So you don't have the sensors corresponding necessarily to other crime fighting tools, which is why you see in the report about the difficulty of integration with this. But I would add, when you go to priority one, it's about that situational awareness and being able to differentiate between which priority ones are actual priority ones you need to go to, since you don't have those other outside surveillance cameras. You have to assume that everything is a shooting where there could be a victim.
And I find, and I'm going to call, and I have Councilman Starr down on my list. I find there's a great deal of confusion with our citizens as well, because I've had people calling me and I'm getting emails. The flock cameras that we have in effect right now are license plate readers as of this point, correct?
Through the chair, Councilman, that's correct.
Yeah, and they're strategically positioned throughout the city.
That's correct.
The camera system that we have in place, is what we call the safety and security cameras, that is not tied to either ShotSpotter or Flock at this point, correct?
Through the chair, you're correct relative
Okay.
to the ShotSpotter,
Right.
the gunshot detection technology. That's not tied to our real-time crime center
That's
unless
right.
our officers respond and then find something. Then obviously, if the cameras are there, we can
Yes.
have situational awareness. As far as the Flock cameras, yes, they're tied into our real-time crime center.
That's a license plate reader.
Yes, which
That's
is a
right.
license plate
Okay.
reader.
Right, the surveillance cameras are something, they're not Flock branded.
That's exactly. They're separate. So I think there's a great deal of confusion. Well, I know there's a great deal of confusion out there with a lot of the folks that are contacting my office on this whole issue. Okay, to our two researchers, any additional comments? I appreciate the work that you did. I thought it was very helpful. And again, as I've said at this table, I'm going to be recommending to the council president that we start figuring out how we can partnership better with our local colleges and universities as it pertains to giving us an independent review and oversight of some of the things that we're doing, other departments and divisions. I think it's very helpful to have a third party look at some things and come back to us. So often, we're just dealing across the table with the administration, and it's been historically trust but verify as best as we can. But it's always good to have some outside eyes looking at and researchers looking at some of the things that we do so we can have an independent presentation to us. So you have nothing else to add?
Yeah, I would say thank you. It's very kind, and it's wonderful to hear that the research can be useful. I'm the director of the research center, and we are always happy to help serve and provide data-driven information to the council or to the city as needed.
And how we can partner with students, where we could get students assisting us.
Thank you. I was going
Yeah.
to mention that as well. We're all in this together. We're right in the
Right.
backyard here, so
Yep.
happy to be involved.
Okay. Thank you. So at this point,
Chair,
I'm going
if I
to
can,
Yes.
to kind of touch on staffing as well, and they want to appreciate that. You're right, Council have approved 180 recruits, and really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and
Yep.
also through the Mayor's Rise Initiative, obviously
Right.
increasing the ability to attract more qualified candidates to become police officers.
Right.
As you know, we have an academy class, and now we have an academy class that we're graduating
Right.
next month in
Yep.
December. And we also just finished going through the process of having another class starting next month. We're going to have an expedited hiring event in January. So all that to say that we're constantly, at least through the Division of Police, hiring individuals to make it up to our budgeted number right now, which is $1,350. We're not that far off
Right.
when you consider that we have 78 recruits in right now,
Right.
which puts our numbers of over 1,200 at this particular time, again, including the 78 recruits that we have. So we're moving towards our budgeted number, but again, appreciate the council approving the 180 recruits.
Well, we're committed, and I want to thank my colleagues for promoting the hiring dates and recruitment activity. We're all in this together, and I would say to the viewing public, if you know of anyone who would be interested in checking out the Cleveland Division of Police, children, grandchildren, neighbors, folks you come in contact with, please pay attention and watch for the hiring events that will be taking place. We want to have a police department that is reflective of our city. That's critical, in my opinion.
So if I can as well, can I just
Yep, go
pub
ahead.
that as
Make the
again?
pitch.
It's January 9th, 10th, and 11th of 2026.
Yep.
It's going to be here at the Cleveland City Hall. And again, it's the starting salary list, top salary, not starting, but top salary is about $89,526. That's after 3-4 years. You have also a sign-in bonus up to $5,000. So please, we are hiring.
With an outstanding health care package.
Absolutely can't pass. Absolutely, healthcare, tremendous healthcare. I believe the Cadillac of healthcare system,
Right.
healthcare here in the city of Cleveland as
And can
well.
retire with 25 years of service.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
50 years of age.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to ask excuse me, Flock. I'm going to ask ShotSpotter. I'm confused with all the emails I'm getting myself here. I'm going to ask ShotSpotter to come to the table just for some brief comments. Please come on up. And I'm going to call upon Councilman Starr then. House Jones, come. Introduce yourself, gentlemen. Pull the mic up close, very close.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gary Bunyard. I'm Senior Vice President, Corporate Development for Sound Thinking.
Sound Thinking is ShotSpotter, correct? Okay.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Richard Bash, and I am your Customer Success Director for the City of Cleveland.
Okay.
And I'm also with Sound Thinking / ShotSpotter.
Okay. Gentlemen, you've heard the report, you've seen it. What's your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I would like to open with a statement just telling this group the importance of the partnership that we have forged with the Cleveland Division of Police over the last 5 years.
Right.
Feel very good about the value, the service we provided over that time period. We're very pleased to see the report that the CSU team put together, agree with the vast majority of the findings in that report. There are a couple of areas we would like to clarify, provide additional information. Before we do that, would also add that we understand Cleveland Division of Police is at the point where they are looking at other technologies and integration options, and we have a lot of technology beyond the ShotSpotter product that we offer, and we would hope to have the opportunity to participate in that evaluation process and make sure everybody here is able to make a fully informed decision regarding the options, not only with Flock, other vendors, and Sound Thinking.
Okay.
I'd like to add one.
Sure, go ahead.
Invite Mr. Bash to comment on the whole subject of integration and the support of other technologies.
Right. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. So just a couple of points. The Assistant Director is absolutely correct that our sensors are placed to be optimal for listening for gunfire. Those sensors are placed for that optimization. Cameras, license plate readers, are placed for optimizing the ability to read license plates.
Yes.
Those locations are not going to be the same, very seldom. Lastly, your neighborhood safety cameras, they're also placed strategically to find the areas that will have the most crime, with the most value. Again, very seldom will any of those locations be co-located because they're completely different technologies. I do want to talk a little bit about the integration because we currently integrate with your CAD system, your computer-aided dispatch system, so that the dispatchers don't have to input additional data when they get a ShotSpotter alert. We're also integrated with your real-time crime center software called Fusus. And Fusus is a nationally known, it's an Axon product, and what it does is it integrates many different technologies into itself. So license plate readers, cameras, drones, all go into Fusus in your real-time crime center, but also ShotSpotter goes into that Fusus system as well. So we have those integrations already in existence today.
Okay. Okay. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry if I may add
Yes,
just very briefly. We also, since we deployed the system here 5 years ago, have expanded our product suite dramatically. And today, as an example, we offer license plate readers tightly integrated with ShotSpotter, tightly integrated with the Insight database analytics tools that are available with ShotSpotter. And we've taken steps to make sure we can easily integrate with a variety of different camera, video technologies, license plate readers, drones, and a variety of other technologies.
Okay. Were you asked at all to submit any proposal to the City of Cleveland as it pertains to expanding your, not only your coverage, but your other technologies?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to jump into my last question to you. You mentioned you agree with most of the report from CSU. What don't you agree with?
Chair, disagree is probably a very strong word. I believe that when they mentioned about our integration and our analytics, We do have a pretty robust analytics program that we put in our Insight product.
Okay.
And we also issue regular data on a monthly basis so that the agencies are aware of their hotspots for a given month, the days of the week, the hours of the day where they're getting the most gunfire from us.
Okay.
Thank you.
But the overall report you agree with?
Yes, sir. We agree with the overall report. The biggest area of concern dealt with integration, in that we have literally hundreds of systems we integrate with around the country.
Okay.
And would like the opportunity to elaborate on that at some point.
Okay. Well, the two representatives, you should be happy with that. See that? They're complimenting your work. That's very, very important. Okay, I'm going to jump right into my colleagues' line of questioning. Again, we're going to go, everyone is going to be given their 15 minutes of time. We'll start with Councilman Richard Starr. Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be real quick and try to get straight to the facts. Because I remember in 2022, when ShotSpotter came to the table, when it was introduced for the administration,
Yes.
and everybody was so happy. So through the chair, to the director, everyone said ShotSpotter is going to help us. It is not going to be the actual reason why we decrease crime. We know that it could be a component to help assist with that. As I paraphrase some of the comments that was mentioned when ShotSpotter was introduced, where we heard some different pros and cons, and the administration was in all support of ShotSpotter. So now we get here, let me see, roughly 3 years later, and we hearing a report regarding what's going on from ShotSpotter since the last 3 years. So my first question would be, through the chair to the CSU team, within your research that you currently have presented today, do you have a contract with the city of Cleveland that paid you to do this actual research through the chair?
Whoever can answer that.
I'm sorry, and this is my first time at the table. The language is to say to the chairperson?
Yes,
To
yes.
the-
Yeah,
okay.
that's right.
Sorry. I was listening earlier, but
Okay, that's right.
it's okay. To the council person through the chair. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. The contract was issued through the city of Cleveland. And the Office of Urban AI was our point of contact from the city side of things for the contract.
And through the chair, when was that contract issued to CSU, or when was the RFP that went out for you to be able to bid on that contract?
Do you happen to know?
I believe the to councilperson through the chair. I believe the RFP was in November of 2022, around then. I know that we applied in January, I think. And then the contract started in May of 2023.
So to the chair, to the CSU team, your contract that you have in place to do the research and keep up with the data has been going on for 3 years?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years? And how many reports have you done regarding each data each year? How many reports have you sent back to the city regarding each data year to year on an annual basis? How often have you submitted some different data to?
Would you care to comment?
To the councilperson through the chair, as part of our contract, we issued semi-annual reports during the contract period, but had monthly check-in meetings. But we issued reports on our progress semi-annually.
All right, through the chair, I definitely will ask some more different questions. Thank you, CSU team. I know I've done some work with you all since y'all are in Ward 5. But I definitely want to say to the city of Cleveland, I understand that we've had this contract, and it looks at it that the prior administration in 2019 was the original ones who wanted to pilot this program, and then the current administration was actually the ones who able to roll it out throughout different parts of the city. I definitely question I would ask to CSUs who've done the research, do you know how many cities in the United States are using ShotSpotter?
Whoever can answer that.
To the councilperson through the chair, we don't.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
Wait.
But
Or-
other people might.
I was going to say, direct that to ShotSpotter.
ShotSpotter, can you let us know how many other cities in the United States is currently using ShotSpotter through the chair?
Yes, sir. Approximately 175 municipalities around the country, and about a half a dozen abroad.
Okay, 175 and a half, okay, no problem. Then also, when it comes to the actual cost of using ShotSpotter to the ShotSpotter team, through the chair, how much does it cost to get ShotSpotter up and running in the city? Or matter of fact, what is the actual breakdown of the cost that we, the city of Cleveland, enter into a contract with you from 2022 to 2025?
Councilman, that should be directed to the
To
administration.
the administration, rather?
Through the chair to the councilman, it was $914,250 a year.
914,000.
Repeat that again.
$914,250 a year for total $2,742,750.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And I understand that with this,
No, I have a different figure.
It's 3 million.
Yeah, I have 3.1.
Sorry, I missed. It's $3,191,750.
okay, all right. Now we're getting there. Okay, from that standpoint, the reason why I'm asking some of these questions is just trying to get an understanding of what is actually going on with ShotSpotter. From the overview and the CSU report, we found some good things that ShotSpotter has done, and then we found some negative things from the standpoint. And from that, I would like to understand from the administration, when we enter into this agreement to use ShotSpotter, what was our main goal from ShotSpotter to utilize for them? Was we using ShotSpotter to say, hey, this is going to help us end gun violence, or is this a part of our safety plan? And what part have they did deliver on, or what have they not been able to deliver on that you thought that they were currently going to do through the chair?
Through the chair, Councilman Stark. Thanks for your question. We obviously had in partnership with Sound Thinking, well, ShotSpotter time now, Sound Thinking, to help our officers, just give our officers additional tools to be able to respond to calls for shots fired. Statistically, we knew that some folks just did not call when shots are being fired. So we wanted to make sure we had some type of a tool that would enable our officers to respond quickly to shots being fired. And through the years that we've had ShotSpotter, Sound Thinking, our officers did receive calls that sometimes folks didn't call, and our officers responded, identified the victims that were shot. Subsequent to our folks getting there, we did receive 911 calls, but that enabled our officers to effectuate first aid to some of these victims, and we believe that really aided in the survivability of some of those individuals. So for me, that alone is worth the technology at that particular point. So we believe that it was, we believe from an administrative standpoint, that it was money well spent if we have the ability to respond to calls for service where someone actually is a victim, and to be able to hopefully save a life of that particular victim and also effectuate the arrest of individuals involved in that particular criminal act. Part of it is to make sure that we drive down violent crime. When we implemented this technology, again, the things we looked at least the data points, data sets, are homicides, false assault, shootings, and other violent crimes and so forth. And that's why we put those detectors, we didn't, but Sound Thinking did, put those detectors in those particular areas to, again, enable our officers to respond to shots fired calls, the most important, the most dangerous, most important code ones, to be able to get to the scene as quickly as possible. Again, if someone's injured, get aid to them, or provide aid, and hopefully make arrests of individuals.
Thank you, State Director. Don't take up all my time now, because he ain't got that clock running. Through the chair, I definitely would ask, so given your response you just gave, do you feel that it is necessary for the city of Cleveland to continue to use ShotSpotter here in our city as a part of the safety division of police while being able to police our neighborhoods through the chair?
Through the chair to Councilman Starr, I think it's important that we have tools, and part of the tools I think it's very important for the Division of Police to have, in the Department of Public Safety, is gunshot detection technology. Yes, I believe it is vital, and it's a tool that we can use to integrate into the other technologies that we currently have.
Thank you. And through the standpoint of that, once we have different technologies in place and ShotSpotter reports come in, do we share those information with any other agency within the country of any way? The data that we have from ShotSpotter, do we share that information through the chair?
To the director.
Through the chair to the Councilman Stein, I'm not quite sure. Do you mean the report itself, or just the sound thinking data from the
sound thinking data?
Do we share it with other individuals?
Individuals, entities, organizations who request this information? Do you?
We have, through the chair to Councilman, to my knowledge, I'm not sure, and we have Captain Gallagher here who may be able to impart some information. I do not believe that we're sharing or receiving a request from any agencies outside the city of Cleveland for our ShotSpotter data.
Captain, identify yourself for the
Well, my name is Captain Matthew Gallagher. Good morning.
Pull your mic close up to you.
To the councilman, to the chair. Good morning, Captain Matthew Gallagher. I don't have an accurate answer right now, but it's something I could look for you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm asking these questions because obviously we seen this past week we had the administration introduced ordinance number 1367-2025, authorizing the director of public safety to enter into a contract with Flock Group. And I'm just trying to get the understanding of what's the difference. So I definitely want to put it out to the dean if there is some type of conversation with Flock where the ordinance has been introduced. Is there a way to bring Flock to the table? Because I would like to ask them questions as well, similar to some of the questions that we are asking today, because we have to make sure what we do is the actual right thing to do, and we're giving the administration what they need to be able to get their job done, and we don't want to leave nothing on the table. I know the contract, I believe you said the contract is ending with ShotSpotter is coming up and ending. And I would ask a question, are we going to put out an RFP? Matter of fact, let me rephrase that question through the chair. Did we put out an RFP with this new company which allowed Flock to be able to enter into a contract potentially? Because how Flock became an ordinance that we say we want to go into a potential contract with them. Did we have an RFP process out?
Through the chair to Councilman Starr, no, we did not have RFP out. That's correct.
So therefore, Flock came to the city and said, hey, we got this opportunity to do something for you, and then we just introduced a piece of legislation without putting out an RFP process?
Through the chair, we already have partnerships with Flock and other companies as well. We already have contracts with Flock for their license plate reader technology, which we have throughout the city of Cleveland.
And then through the chair, do you know how long Flock has been in service as doing license plate reader?
Through the chair, with the city of Cleveland, not quite sure how long they've been in business, but the city of Cleveland, I think it's been since 23, I believe, is the
23.
23, I believe, is when they're actually, although we've used their technology through the county's had Flock system in here, I believe, since 2020. We've utilized the technology, but the city of Cleveland did not have a contract with them. We started using their technology in 2023.
And I see I have 2 minutes left. I'm wrapping up, Dean.
Go ahead.
And through the chair, with the Flock program and what they have, do they have the capabilities, technology to be gunshot detections as well as similar to what ShotSpotter does?
Through the chair, I can't talk about their similarities or anything like that, but yes, Flock does offer gunshot detection technology.
All right, and then also I did some research on difference between ShotSpotter technology as well as the Flock. And what I understand is that in the Indianapolis Police Department, they conducted a formal test of Flock and ShotSpotter gunshot detection system, comparing the performance of both systems. Is that something y'all have looked at so far before we put out this, I guess, got a contract with Flock or ordinance? Did we look at anything like that?
There's we have no contract. There's a piece of legislation.
Piece of legislation,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Chair.
Through the chair, Councilman, I'm not aware of that particular research that you just mentioned.
Yes, because I would love for us to put that on record that we should definitely look at what was done in Indianapolis, and you will learn the difference between the two systems in place, where one is more effective in license plate reader and one is more experienced over 25 years of gun violence detections opportunities in the cities. Yes, there's some different things that both can do great, but when you look at the comparison, when you talk about gun violence and detecting guns, there is nothing to compare. ShotSpotter does, that's what they're designed to do. And then license plate reader is something that Flock is doing. So when we talk about gunshot, when we talk about violence and coming up with technology to assist, we need to make sure we have the tools necessary in place to help with our police force and everything like that. And I'll wrap up. This last part that I would definitely say is I definitely would ask to the gunshots, make sure I say it right, Sound Thinking Group. I noticed that you mentioned about around 175 municipalities is using ShotSpotter technology. But I did find that there has been a numerous amount of list of cities who have discontinued the technology. Cities such as Chicago in 2024, Dayton in 2023, Tacoma in 2023, Chicago, Illinois, North Carolina, Durham, Portland, Oregon. Oregon don't really have crime though. But San Antonio, Texas, San Diego, California, Houston, Texas, Indianapolis, that ain't really clear, they still using it. Atlanta, and then New Orleans. I would ask through the chair to the Sound Thinking organization, can they provide some of the reasons why a list of these cities or states discontinue ShotSpotter, and what did they receive from those cities as they decided to discontinue ShotSpotter through the chair? And that'd be it, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, you paid attention to your time. So ShotSpotter or Sound Thinking, you care to respond?
Through the chair to Councilman Starr. Today, we have about 175 agencies using our gunshot detection technology. As more and more agencies see gun violence coming down and budgets getting tighter, there are more agencies that are scrutinizing this type of technology and whether or not they want to continue with gunshot detection, and in some cases actually reducing the gunshot detection coverage. Probably the most publicized termination scenario you referenced is the city of Chicago, and that was a decision made by the mayor as a campaign promise. We can say with great confidence, based on the work we've done in Chicago, we enjoy tremendous support for our gunshot detection technology across the city of Chicago, across the police department, across 34 of the 50 aldermen, and a variety of organizations in Chicago. And we are going through an RFP process, participating in an RFP that they put out to evaluate the latest technology, and feel very good about where we are positioned in that evaluation.
Okay.
You referenced a few others. I can say that, as an example, San Antonio, that went back to 2015, was a scenario where a city councilman brought us in. The chief of police was not really supportive of the technology. As a pilot, it never really got off the ground. What I'd like to do is turn to my partner here real quickly and just speak very briefly to the number of agencies here in the state of Ohio that are using the product very productively today.
Yeah, briefly, because we have other council people who have questions. Yes, go ahead.
Through the chair to the councilman, I can speak specifically to Dayton because they were a client of mine, and that chief was vocal in his support for ShotSpotter and how we were helping them reduce crime in Dayton. Unfortunately, when he called me, he said, we just don't have the money. Dayton is suffering significantly with finances, and he was apologetic, but indicated that they just couldn't continue the system. Yeah. Here in the state of Ohio, we have certainly your neighbor with Cuyahoga Falls, Warrensville Heights. We have East Cleveland as well. We also have the city of Columbus, and we have Cincinnati. So the three largest jurisdictions within the state of Ohio, again, uses our system, and about the same square mileage, right about 313.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to just educate all of our colleagues and the viewing public, the funds that we utilize to implementation of the ShotSpotter was ARPA funds, American Rescue Act. So obviously, those funds have gone bye-bye. So we have to be very mindful, whatever we do from this point on, that we have to be very cost efficient in moving forward here. Just go back before I call Stephanie House-Jones, Councilwoman. The contract expired when with ShotSpotter?
November 2nd, to the chair, November 2nd of
So
this year.
how is the system still in place if it expired?
To the chair, from conversations with Sound Thinking, we're still active through, is it April? I believe April of next year, I think we have at least a portion, I believe 9 square miles, I believe, are still active relative to our contract.
So are we paying them on a monthly basis? How are we doing it since the contract expired? I'm not.
Through the chair, it's on because we sign at different times, and again, Sound Thinking is at the table as well. We sign on an annual basis. The contracts run on an annual basis.
Okay. So it is. So as of today, ShotSpotter system is still in place
Through the chair, that's correct.
and will be until April.
Through the chair, I believe. And I don't want to speak out of turn. They're sitting down there.
Could you clarify that?
They would have to clarify. I don't
Thinking?
want to speak for Sound Thinking.
Mr. Chairman, the contract that is in place today is built upon 2 phases. Phase 1 is 3 miles. Phase 2 is 10 miles. Phase 1 has expired. Phase 2 is in place through April of 26 and is paid up through April of 26.
And that's the 10, so they're no longer 13 square miles, they're just 10 square miles.
We have continued to leave the 3 square miles active in pending discussions with the Division of Police regarding their wishes for those 3 square miles.
Thank you. Thank you for the education.
So through the chair, they're still active.
Yes.
There's still coverage.
Okay, Councilwoman Stephanie House-Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So there are just a couple of things through the chair to the team here. Good afternoon. I'm going to just start off and I'm going to go through the phases of the evaluation, which I'm grateful that the committee amended the original legislation to include evaluation. And I think that's part of the work of this body. And just overall, we have to start assessing the work that we do. We really have to just stop just doing, really assessing it. As part of it, when it talked about like looking at ShotSpotter, using it as a tool to be able to support our police department in conducting their investigations, which is separate and different. And I don't know, was there an intention to think that this technology would actually build a level of trust within community member? Was that an initial expectation? Seeing that in the report, it was reported, and I guess this is more for the administration, seeing that the tool, as we know, just like policing in general, it's after the fact, right? It's after the crime has happened, and it is not an actual crime prevention strategy. Was there an intention or hope or thought that this, being able to have this as a tool, that there will be some building of trust from community members?
Through the chair, Council Member House-Jones, yes, that was part of the process with implementation of the ShotSpotter Sound Thinking technology. Yes, that officers, once they received a notification that there was a ShotSpotter alert, respond to that particular area. Again, the premises, if there's a victim, we can render aid to the victim, hopefully find suspects and individuals responsible for that and hold them accountable for that particular act. Coupled with, if the individuals are not there, the officers would respond, get out the cars, walk around that particular area, hopefully find evidence, shell casings and otherwise. Also, canvass the area, actually go door to door in the particular area, confer with witnesses, hopefully, and neighbors and so forth, and just give the ability for the neighbors to interact and talk with the officers who are responding in that particular area. So we believe that's an opportunity for engagement with the officers as well as the community, which we believe in effect will cause, or we would hope, result in the community having better trust and faith and confidence in our division of police.
Okay, thank you for that. So again, because I come from a mindset of crime prevention, like that is how I'm always coming up to this table. We need to work on preventing crime. And so through the chair, to the director, as we look at, I know many times you've indicated that ShotSpotter itself has been able to save, did you say like 52, 53? How many lives? I don't know. How many lives do you attribute being saved as a result of ShotSpotter?
Whoever can answer that.
Through the chair, Councilwoman House Jones, again, great question. Talking with Captain Gallagher, we don't have the stats in front of us, probably should have. We have over 50 lives we believe were impacted. Once we received the gunshot detection alert, officers responded, and I'll be quick, I know you have your time. Officers responded, did find someone that was injured, shot, and rendered first aid. Of course, EMS is responding as well. We believe that was part of that. We believe that our actions responding saved the lives of those individuals. We know that subsequent to that, it's in the report, CSU report, that we did receive subsequent 911 calls, but initial shots fired, there were no 911 calls. Our officers responded, found a victim, and rendered first aid.
Right. Okay, through the chair to the director, because this is a consistent question that I ask consistently, because again, my mindset is preventing crime. With the data analysis that we have we looked at, well, A, how many perpetrators were convicted as a result of the ShotSpotter support? And how have we developed a crime prevention strategy specifically to be able to identify the profile of victims and perpetrators that then would lead us to a crime prevention strategy to say what would happen, what we needed to do so that the victim wouldn't be there, the perpetrator wouldn't be there. How have we utilized information in that way?
Director?
We did not capture that particular information that you're talking about.
You said what?
We did not capture the information that you just mentioned.
Okay, we're gonna go back to that later.
Well, through the
I
chair,
appreciate
I'm sorry.
it. Excuse me?
If I could just clarify or add some context to the chair. So police reports have police report numbers. When they go through the Muni court and then sometimes bound over to the county court, if it's a felony, it has a municipal court case number, and then it has a felony court or court of common pleas case number that's separate from that. So most police departments, I believe ours doesn't, or is unable to track how, because the police report is not connected with a case number with the court system.
Through the chair to the team, this is a fundamental problem. So how are we actually even developing a crime prevention strategy if we don't have a full analysis of the victims and perpetrators so that we can actually prevent crime? So if it is not coming from the Division of Police to develop a crime prevention strategy, then who here should we be working with to develop a crime prevention strategy? This is a thing that I am talking about consistently. We are doing a lot of work, but we are not really effective in doing and making the necessary investments so that we can truly work to prevent the 50-some of people from getting shot or having homicides or even the perpetrators. What are we doing? And again, we'll have a much larger conversation on this, but this is when I've come into Cleveland City Council. I've been saying this from our juvenile perpetrators to even here and now. What are we doing? It is not good enough just to show up. We have to come up with a more integrated strategy. But I'm gonna go through more of this report.
If I can,
sure,
briefly, because I know you
sure.
have time, and
Go
I'm
ahead.
sensitive to your time.
Yep.
To the chair, the councilwoman, we have crime data analysts in each of the police districts, or we have 5. We have several, but 1 per district. Part of what you're talking about to be more of a crime prevention strategy is to, of course, get data. We also use the data from Sound Thinking, which is ShotSpotter or gunshot detection technology data and so forth. Based on that, with our crime analysts, we're able to know where certain crimes are taking place. Based on that data, we're able to know probably not only the times and high frequency times and so forth. That information is then given to our commanders. Our commanders then can deploy their resources based on the data. For an example, we've had multiple burglaries a couple of years ago, and I say a year and a half ago, where individuals were breaking into dollar stores and others, B&Es and so forth. Based on our crime analysts, they're able to detect patterns, detect times, and based on that, the Division of Police was able to put a detail together, and they were able to catch the individuals in the act. So that's, for me, that's crime prevention based on data that we have and we collect.
Okay, so that's the thing. We're going to talk about it. It's a difference. I'm saying it prevented it. What was the person who were involved in the actual burglaries? What happened to them to even cause them to be involved in this level of burglaries? This is, I think, a very clear distinction. But I'm not going. This is not what we're here for. But I'm gonna get my time because you've been taking a lot of my time, and I got some more questions. Go ahead, Director. Through the chair. I mean, go
We're also,
ahead, Director.
as you're aware, through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, as you're aware, we also have the Mayor's Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Opportunity, and so forth, which is into prevention and opportunities and so forth. So I want to make sure that we shout that out as well, so they have their work that they're doing, not only they have their work they're doing with the community members as well as the Department of Public Safety and Division of Police.
But when we look at the investment of that office compared to the overall system, we're getting the results that we do because it is not even 5%. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so going into the report, the Shot Spotter team, Sound Thinking team, they were talking about how they have this technology, and there's a lot of things that it can actually do. And one of the things that's very insightful in the analysis is that you see that we have this technology. I don't know what the training was for the detectives and the investigators, but clearly, as it shows in this report, many of them aren't even using it. So when you do an analysis, and this is on like page 71 or so, but it was amazing to me where they can do a simple report, but it said it said, however, most investigators did not request a detailed forensic report from ShotSpotter. 30% said never, 18% said rarely. So this is a thing that I am just, we buy and make investments into technology. I don't know what the training was that was provided to all members of our police department, but for the significant investment that we have to the tune of $3 million, to see that we have not prepared our public servants to fully utilize it, to get all of the data, it's a bit disappointing. And so I will say, and I will encourage the division, as we are looking at other things to utilize, that we are effectively training our people so that they can know how to use it so that we can get what we need to. Because the evaluation has shown us that it is not occurring. So that's neither here nor there. And if you want to comment on it, you can, so I can get to the bulk of my stuff in my last 5 minutes.
Care to comment, Director, or
I'll-
Assistant Director?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I could comment. So those say, my understanding of that data point, it shows raw numbers of who requests, who doesn't make requests for those type of reports. I think one consideration to take into account is whether such a detailed report would be necessary for the call or the shot that was made. If it's shots, you go there and you don't see anything, it's really not necessary to put in for that extra report. If you see a case and there you find a victim and things like that, and it's going to go to trial potentially, that's when those type of reports really become valuable.
So I get that very completely. Through the chair to the team here. So in the instances that cases went to trial, what was the percentage of the detailed report analysis being used? Because you said, and you've just laid out the fact as to when and how it would be utilized. So if you can let me know, do you have the statistics to let me know, well then, as it related to these detailed analysis, what percentage of the time was the detailed analysis used for then when these cases went to court?
Director?
Through the chair, we don't have that. We don't
Okay.
have that information in front of us, but
All
we
right.
certainly can. But also, as stated before, and I'll be quick. I know you have other questions, Council Member. Through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones. We have data analysts. I believe when we initially started this program with ShotSpotter and so forth, we didn't have data analysts, and I'm not trying to make excuses for the detectives that are assigned to get the information and the data from Sound Thinking to be able to give that to the commanders. We have a crime analyst assigned to each district. They can extrapolate that information, put it in a form, and give it to the respective district commanders so that, again, they can deploy to those particular areas where we're having issues with violent crime as well as shots being fired.
Okay. And just in this time, so really on this question of building community trust, it really is, when you look at just a very series of questions. And this is, like I said, this is part of the reason why I am here in Cleveland City Council, to bring voice to not even just my own lived experience, but for those that are around me. And I think far too often people are not listening, we are not paying attention, and we are not designing our work and service based on people's real realities, right? When you look at the responses, of the sampling, but in this report, that talk about, just generally, responses about CDP's responses to violence varied. They said 40% were satisfied and about 43% were unsatisfied. They said responses reported having been more dissatisfied with CDP's response to preventing gun violence. Almost 54% were dissatisfied with CDP's response to preventing gun-related violence. There was mixed reports when it comes to just responses to gunshot fires. It was like 41% and 40. It said that this is the one, again, that really, it says this chart shows a notable distribution across all satisfaction levels of CDP's response to interacting with residents in a way that builds community trust. While 31% of residents felt satisfied about police-community relations, 14% was neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, and 55% reported dissatisfaction, including a trust gap that could be addressed through engagement strategies. And it's more on in there, but that's like, many times I know people are like, well, why is she so hard? It's like, I'm always questioning, I'm always challenging our division of police, because this stuff that's being captured in this evaluation, I know it's happening because, again, you talk to people. We have to change this perception. It's not good enough to just come and show up and feel like, oh, we doing the best. Sometimes your best is not enough, and sometimes you need to make changes. And again, I really challenge us as a body to do better. Stop being so beholden to outdated, antiquated processes that are not serving our people. If the overwhelming majority say they are not buying what you're selling, we have to change, especially the communities that are impacted. I mean, it goes into even the perceptions of where we think the technology is. People believe they are being over surveillance. It's not what you tell them. People don't feel it. They don't see it. And again, like I said, this is a very, very lengthy report, but we need to start taking stock of this stuff and just stop working to serve ourselves and serve the people of the city of Cleveland. They deserve that. Their voice needs to be heard, and their voices in a very real way need to be implemented in the practices and the technologies that we are capturing. I'll leave it at there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And thank you for this opportunity.
Councilman Slife.
Thank you. So I want to just begin by saying I think the police are charged with a goal of reducing crime, and that's something we can all participate in. The police are also required to investigate crimes after they occur, which is not something that I can participate in the same way, because I am not legally able to provide evidence that would be satisfactory to a court of law. So with that in mind, I want to talk about theory versus practice. I agree in theory that tools like not exclusive to ShotSpotter could be useful to indirectly prevent crime, and I want to emphasize indirectly, and could be useful in investigating crimes after they have occurred. The questions that I have really are related to whether that is merely a theory or if it is occurring in practice. I have 4 questions. We're going to get through all of them. My first is for our visitors from CSU, really only because I have you. It's a little beyond the context of this specific report, but whether it's ShotSpotter or drones or cameras, we do hear frequently from members of the community about Fourth Amendment concerns. And in this report, it sort of becomes a moot point because it's determined that the technology is unable to pick up any meaningful trace of a person's voice. Are you comfortable characterizing the legal expectations of privacy in the private realm versus privacy in the public realm? And if the technology were able to pick up voices, is it a Fourth Amendment concern, or is this merely where does the lower expectation of privacy within the public, where does that cross a line into a Fourth Amendment concern? Because my assumption would be that if you're out on the street and you're talking, that you do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy.
Who would care to comment? Would you?
well,
CSU?
I will say
We'll
that
ask CSU.
we are not lawyers.
Well,
I'm not either.
Maybe the ones who went to law school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Through the,
Yeah.
through the,
Okay.
through the chair.
Listen up through the chair, Assistant Director Shackner.
Thank you. Through the chair, as kids' background, I was an assistant county prosecutor for 7.5 years in Lake County. Often dealt with these Fourth Amendment concerns. Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable search and seizure without a warrant. One of the main considerations is whether or not it's a search. You are correct in talking about one of the standards is, do you have an expectation of privacy? And your differentiation between the public and private realm is also a consideration that's taken into account. Case law does not protect, it's not considered a search when you're speaking in public, on a public street, unless there are state laws preventing that. As you know, state of Ohio is a one-party consent state, meaning that if I call you on the phone, and I record you, I don't have to notify you that you're being recorded.
Stop doing that.
Yeah, I know, I have this whole trove. But same thing, like you see this also with license plates, right? When you're driving around, the most public thing you could do is have a license plate on your car. You're driving around on public streets. Do you have an expectation of privacy on that license plate number that you're required to have on the state in order to drive that car? No, you don't. If you're in a restaurant and you're talking in a restaurant and you're talking loud enough where the person in the booth next to you can hear you, do you have, let's say an officer is sitting there and that officer hears you discuss a crime, is that a search? No, it is not. You're in a public place talking loudly enough where someone could hear you. You do not have an expectation of privacy there.
Thank you. I don't want to belabor the point. I do, and I understand why people have a discomfort with being overly surveilled. I share it in many aspects, but I worry that our current community conversations have gone further, an overinterpretation of the Fourth Amendment that would suggest something to the effect of, and I will just share my disagreement, that a drone at a public gathering is a Fourth Amendment violation, which has been characterized. That you're in public. That's my personal opinion. It's wild to state, but it is not inherently illegal to discharge a gun in the city of Cleveland. And I'm curious, which it should be, and this body is unable to affect that change into law. That is state law. And were there any instances where ShotSpotter resulted in officers being having a priority one call for something that was otherwise legal behavior, determined to be legal behavior?
Through the chair, I don't have that information in front of me. We can look. It's part of the report. Okay.
Yeah, I missed that in the executive summary. I'm assuming it wasn't prolific, but it did occur.
Correct. We weren't, to the council person through the chair, we weren't able to determine exactly how many through the data that we were given. But yes, there were many calls that, but primarily the issue is that they aren't able to determine if it's legal or not, because unless there's a camera or some other reason to capture whether it was in a cemetery, over a roadway, on, like all the different contingencies that are part of the legislation or the code, they're not able to determine whether it's a legal discharge of a firearm or not,
Okay.
without additional evidence to support that.
Okay, Councilman?
I only bring it up because I share the concern about gun activity in this community, but there's just pointing out we are seeing a reduction in priority 2 calls for assumed priority 1 issues that may or may not be legal, or even if they are illegal, we're unable to demonstrate that. It seems it's just an interesting allocation of resources. When it sort of initially, my question about whether this is effective in theory or in practice really comes down to the statistical significance. So I think that there have been some anecdotes that we've received over the years about ShotSpotter resulted in 911 services arriving on scene and helping to raid life-saving aid. I do believe I recalled in the report that most, if not all, of those instances did have a corresponding 911 call. So it would be a reasonable interpretation to question whether ShotSpotter was a statistically significant contributor to that life-saving aid, or if it was just coincidentally happening alongside it. I use that as an example. I am interested, and I didn't see this in the report. I saw where there were a lot of data, and that's not a criticism. The report could have been 1,000 pages if we kept going. But I did not see any information on whether there about overall crime increases, decreases within the geographies, especially in the 4th District where it was implemented first, so there would theoretically be a longer period over which you could draw data. I'm curious if that was analyzed and if there was found to be a decrease in crime over that time period, which is very possible because we have seen crime trending in many indicators in a good direction. Are we able to determine whether or not ShotSpotter was a statistically significant contributor to that, or are we only able to question whether it was merely something happening alongside a number of other factors?
Whoever can answer that?
Okay. As criminologists, and as all of you know, there's a lot of different things that can contribute to shifts in crime. An ideal situation, we would have been able to be there as researchers before the technology was rolled out and when those choices were being made, so that we could make sure we had comparable areas as control areas to be able to really tease out that question. So part of it is the design. It makes it, we're limited in that respect. Also, well, several different reasons. Also, I'll try to be quick. We don't always know. Actually, I let Rachel jump. Did you want to say anything else? I was trying to see how I could explain this. We don't.
Explain it where the average person
Yeah.
can understand it,
Oh,
Professor.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Lost my train of thought there for a second. Part of it also is that when we're having more officers coming to the district because of ShotSpotter calls, we might see an increase, what seems like an increase in crime if we're measuring crime based on police response, right? But that's an artificial increase because if you send them, they will find, if that makes sense. So that's hard to tease out as well.
Yes, I would say, to follow up on that, we weren't able to determine that through statistical significance. Other studies, there's lots of other studies from other jurisdictions that have looked at that question, who were able to do it and have a control sample, and they determined that ShotSpotter doesn't reduce overall. Really, very few studies have found that ShotSpotter is directly related to or has a direct effect on preventing gun violence. And a lot of it has to do with the extent to which it's after the fact, and it's really hard to follow up. Bigger picture, being able to respond to gun violence is one thing. Does it actually reduce crime is about 12 steps later.
Sure. And from my read of the report, a takeaway that I had, and correct me if this is a bad takeaway, was that as to the question of whether or not ShotSpotter is helpful in the investigation of reports is maybe to be determined, because we haven't been putting the proper resources to maybe take advantage of the full resources that theoretically we weren't investigating to the level that maybe you would want to see for us to be able to draw a more conclusive answer to that question. I will say my skepticism of whether ShotSpotter has that indirect crime prevention benefit really stems from the idea, and I think when this came forward in 2022, I made sort of a flippant analogy of the Count from Sesame Street, who's not gathering data for the sake of using the data. He's merely counting things because he likes to count. And is this going to lead to changes in zone patrols, and are we going to learn lessons along the way or uncover information we wouldn't have otherwise, or are we merely quantifying a phenomenon that we're all painfully aware of through lived experience? So that's sort of transitions into my final question to the director, which is really just that. And we basically took areas that we know are hotspots, and we put data or tools there to essentially reconfirm what we already suspected. I'm wondering what, if any, new information came from this. How were zone patrols altered based on the data coming in? What was there an indirect benefit to the Division of Police that caused them to police differently than they had been? Or were we merely kind of quantifying the lived experience of many Clevelanders? That's the question.
I think that would go to director, assistant director.
Right. Through the chair, to Councilman Slife, thanks for the question. I believe that the ShotSpotter data that we received here in the Division of Police was used to not necessarily change patrol habits. I believe that enabled the commanders, the command staff, to again identify areas, like you said, that we believe, based on statistics, had increased violence, homicides, false assaults, shootings, non-fatals and fatals, and so forth. To be able to concentrate on those particular areas to the point where we actually go into what we call microgrids, which are the small, really small areas where we can have our officers concentrate on those. And part of it is, of course, a reduction of violent crime, community engagement, of course, to enhance the trust of the community. So I believe those were the for us, for the Division of Police and Department of Public Safety, those are some of the things that we're able to do. We're able to aid us as a division of police and making sure that we have the right resources to put in those particular areas. So the ShotSpotter data, I believe, really helped us to do that. And the other thing is we weren't receiving the calls, the 911 calls, that is, for shots fired, calls in general. Not everyone calls 911. They call the non-emergency number as well. For shots fired, we weren't receiving them. So this gave us the ability, with the sound thinking, ShotSpotter, gunshot detection technology, gave us the ability to respond to areas where we were not receiving calls for service. And based on that data, that information, we were able to, I believe, to respond to individuals that were shot. I get reports and notifications every night about the violence that takes place, if there are violence. Not always. I want to say that I don't want to paint a picture that there's violence that takes place in the city of Cleveland every night. I don't. But what does, I get the information and so forth, and I read the reports. And what I find is that our officers are responding to the gunshot detection technology, sound thinking, respond there before, and it's important, before we receive a 911, a corresponding 911 call, find a victim, render first aid, and then EMS or fire respond also to take over the life-saving measures for those individuals. So for me, that happens more frequently than not. And for me, just having the ability for our officers to receive those alerts, to respond to those areas, and to do life-saving measures on those people, in my very humble opinion, is worth the investment that we've invested in the gunshot detection technology.
Okay. Charlie? I'll yield my comments. Okay. Councilwoman Moore.
Thank you. Oh, we have to all turn to this end of the table now. Good morning, everybody. My name is Councilwoman Rebecca Moore. I appreciate the robust conversation that's happened so far. I want to open up by talking a little bit about something I think a few of my colleagues have touched on, which is the sort of ideological position of this body and of residents of the city of Cleveland to what is effectively government mass surveillance. And I don't want anybody to think that that's not the critical elephant in the room. We all have to decide how comfortable we are with additional surveillance, particularly at this moment of the Trump administration, using surveillance technologies like this for attacks on Black and brown communities, and especially our immigrant brothers and sisters throughout Cleveland and Northeast Ohio and around the country. I don't take that point lightly. I wanted to make sure to open with it, and I'll also open with another anecdote which really shaped my view of some of these surveillance technologies, which was my first summer during law school. I worked for a equivalent of legal aid in New York City that was representing a group of tenants who had been stuck in their high-rise apartment buildings being run by NYCHA, the New York equivalent of CMHA. And they'd sued, and they'd finally, after years and years and years, won a settlement from NYCHA for being stuck in their apartments for years on end and just struggling with the quality of their apartments, crime-riddled, really struggling to get the basics in and out of their apartments. And we brought in our clients, our clients who wanted to help us decide where the settlement money was going to go. And all the lawyers in the room, you know, they wanted crime prevention, we wanted community services, we wanted additional social workers on site, and the number one things our clients wanted were cameras. That was the number one things our clients wanted. And I don't take the ideological approach lightly that when I say I personally am opposed to a surveillance state because we've seen historically in America the way it's been used. I don't believe that every community member is going to necessarily come to that conclusion based on their lived experience. They are desperate for something that will impact their real lived experience of day-to-day crime. And what I think it's our responsibility to tease out whether this technology can actually deliver on the things people are so hungry for. They find themselves wanting cameras, they find themselves wanting solutions because their lives are intolerable and they're looking for something that can help. And I think it's fair for this body to ask the question, and I think it's great of CSU to have helped us answer this question of whether this technology is capable of doing that. So I will get off my soliloquy and head into the questions, but I hold in tension those two ideas that we have many community members who are looking for a solution to crime, and what I think we all need to be rooted in, which is our level of comfort with additional surveillance, particularly as we're headed to a sort of integrated system that might tie in some things like AI, facial recognition, and just general mass surveillance. So with that approach in mind, I want to ask a couple of questions. First to the CSU team, we've had a couple of mentions of the lives saved as a result of ShotSpotter, and I'm wondering if you could share from your research and reporting whether it was confirmed that but for ShotSpotter, somebody would have passed away, or whether ShotSpotter was potentially one component of saving a life. Through the chair.
Identify yourself. Review.
Thank you. Stephanie Kent, Cleveland State, through the chair to the councilperson. So the for all the life-saved cases that we received from Cleveland Police and then compared them to the 911 calls, there was about a 2-minute difference in the ShotSpotter alert to the time that somebody called 911. So is it possible that that made a difference? It's possible, but I don't know that there's any way we can really, there's too many variables for us, and I'm not being a medical doctor to know, what the situation was. But there are, those cases are verified. I know we were comfortable with the data that we received about those cases in terms of accuracy and validity, if that's helpful. But that's about all I can say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the chair, you were comfortable with the validity of the data in terms of incidents of people being shot, but there was not confirmation that the life was saved because of ShotSpotter. Through the chair.
Professor?
To the chair, through the council, or to the councilperson through the chair. Yes, we're not, we weren't given the medical records of these individuals, so we weren't able to determine would, for example, a shot to the femur seems bad. Would 2 minutes matter? Probably. To a shot to the side of the leg, maybe less so, right? Like, we weren't given the medical records to be able to confirm all of that, although we were able to see that there were gunshots and that they got there faster. But without going into the exact nature of the shots or where they were shot, we were unable to determine whether that 2 minutes made a difference in their life being saved or not.
Director, do you want to comment?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I appreciate the question again. Again, the important thing for me and from the Department of Public Safety is that with this technology, and I'll pointing it with this technology, the officers, the cases that we're referencing here, and probably others as well, that's not being referenced. We did not receive a 911 call initially. The 911 call, the gunshot technology alerted our officers. Our officers responded to that location, located a victim with one or two or multiple gunshots and so forth. The severity, they're not doctors as well. We're not doctors. I do know that within 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the type of a wound that the individual received, they can bleed out. That much I know from experience, and also talking with Commissioner Wheeler from EMS. So the 2 minutes, in my opinion, is extremely important. And again, we received the sound thinking or the gunshot detection alert. Our officers responded, found a victim, and rendered aid. Our officers, every single one of our officers in Division of Police received first aid training, advanced first aid training through EMS and so forth, and have the kits with them as well, to seal the wounds and so forth, and subsequently called EMS to respond to take over the care for those individuals. So I believe that without the alerts, there's a good possibility those individuals may have perished.
Thank you. I think what I'll lift up from that answer is that there's not enough certainty to say that we've saved 50 lives from ShotSpotter, but there's not enough certainty to say that we haven't saved a life at some point. Through the chair, is that accurate?
Through the chair, that's accurate. But again, we did not receive a corresponding calls initially. Our officers responded based on the sound thinking alert. They responded and were able to provide first aid to those individuals before EMS arrived to take over care.
And through the chair, sorry, just brief.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to correct, I just looked at the report to the councilperson through the chair. It was actually 4 minutes, on average of 4 minutes, not 2 minutes.
Great.
So, no, right, like, know it off the top of your head. So I looked up in the report, it's actually 4 minutes, just to correct it, to have better context for it.
Through the chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And just in the spirit of time, I'm going to move on to the next line of question. I do really appreciate understanding it because I think this is a critical talking point, and I want to make sure that we use the talking point about lives saved with precision in our language. And I do think it's critical that we not overstate or understate the way that this technology is being used. And I think CSU has drawn, I think, a clear line here. In terms of we had some initial reports from ShotSpotter in 2022. They came before council and offered a number of statistics. I had the sort of initial this report from September 2022 talking about, this one identified 7 lives saved at the time, 415 NIBN leads, shell casings collected. Through the chair to the CSU team, did you guys evaluate the accuracy of this report vis-a-vis the statistics that you had at any point during this process?
I'm not sure, oh, sorry, excuse me, to the councilperson through the chair. I'm not sure that specific report we looked at. We looked at a number of reports. We attempted to, starting at the beginning of our evaluation, we attempted to replicate numbers from a report that was produced by Cleveland Police based on the pilot data. I think it was a 6-month report. But we were unable to make those data to replicate those data because we weren't sure of like the exact denominators that were used in some of the calculations, and we were unable to get any confirmation on where that came from.
Thank you. I think as a follow-up, I would love to make sure that you have a copy of this report and just have you review it and provide any high-level thoughts about sort of the accuracy of this initial report from ShotSpotter in 2022 compared to the data that you put forward. Thank you. I next want to connect just another talking point is about the homicide clearance rate in the city. Through the chair to the public safety team, could you identify the connection between ShotSpotter and the homicide clearance rates and how many cases you are saying were solved because of ShotSpotter specifically?
I don't have that specific information that you just referenced.
Okay, thank you. I think a number through the chair to the CSU
Yes.
team, did you get any data about the homicide clearance rates that were improved because of ShotSpotter? through the chair?
Professors,
I will say that in some of the data that we saw from Sound Thinking, it references changes in homicides, clearance rates, and changes in homicide in the areas where ShotSpotter has been deployed. But we would not say that that necessarily means that it's due to ShotSpotter.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a critical point too. I'll be direct that the administration has used the current homicide clearance rate as a talking point about this technology, and I just think we should be careful about making sure that we're not making, again, false promises to the community about the way that this technology is being used by our team.
Through the chair, I don't think, through the chair to the council member, I don't think that the administration is saying that the gunshot technology is the sole reason for how homicide clearance rates. There are different combinations, the various technologies that we have, the hard work of our detectives in the homicide unit. It's a combination of I believe, a lot of things, having the license plate readers, the integration of the cameras and so forth, to being able to identify suspects relatively quick. I believe all come into play when we're talking about reduction in homicides, and also the homicide rates itself, the clearance rate.
Okay, thank you. I will make sure to forward the incidents that I've seen of the homicide clearance rate being used to justify the technology for you all to review. I next want to turn to the question, and I apologize, Chairman, I didn't start a timer when I started. How much time do I have left?
I will tell you, you have 6.5
Oh,
seconds.
look at that, we're cruising, okay. I have a quick kind of technical note for the administration. I went back because I remember the committee. It was Deputy Commander Pillow came to present the license plate reader contract to the body, but I couldn't find the underlying legislation, and I was struggling to find the date. I believe it was in 2023. I would love to ask for your help if you could both provide the initial RFP that was used for the license plate reader contract with Flock, as well as the date that it was presented to council. That would be very helpful.
Through the chair to the council member, we'll get that information for you.
Thank you very much. I'd last like to turn to the question of the RFP and bidding process for 1367, the Flock contract. I want to pull up the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, section 181.10, which deals with purchases exceeding $50,000, have to be authorized by ordinance. And as you read through it, you see it also requires bids. And so I'm asking through the chair, why was this ordinance for a specific contract, not an RFP, presented to council without an initial RFP process?
Director.
Through the chair.
Through the chair to the council member, this is sole source, and that's how we were able to present this particular legislation.
Through the
Assistant
chair,
Director, go ahead.
also through the chair, it's also on state term. When things are on state term, you don't have to go through a bidding or RFP process, because when it's on state term, that means the state has already bid the lowest and best amount for that particular contract.
Thank you. So I want to clarify, those are two separate reasons to avoid the RFP process. And you have ShotSpotter here at the table claiming that they are able to provide the technology that the city is looking for. Through the chair, does that change your approach to this sole source bid?
Whoever could answer that, or would answer.
Through the chair to the council member, there was not an effort to bypass the process. That I want to make sure we're clear at that. Again, as stated before, it's a sole source as well as state term as well. And that we'll just have to leave it at that for this particular time.
Thank you. And I hope you understand the hesitancy that I have, given that a member of this body just departed to take a job at Flock, that we now have a sole source contract without an RFP process that would have allowed some amount of time to work out questions about our comfortability with surveillance. We've skipped that process. And now we have an ordinance before us for a direct contract with Flock for this technology right after a member of this body left to go work at Flock. I hope you understand my concern about that RFP, or with that contract being requested without an RFP process.
Director.
Through the chair, the council member you're talking about, I have no knowledge of, I know that he's working for Flock now, but it has nothing to do, and I repeat, absolutely nothing to do with the current legislation for Flock.
Then I think we got to do everything by the books. If you are saying there's no connection, we need to make sure this is as transparent as possible, because I just think to the average member of the public, there is going to be some questions about why we would end up skipping an RFP immediately after a member of this body left to go work at Flock. Thank you. I want to make sure that I end by thanking everybody coming today to discuss this topic. Again, I opened with the ideology questions because I understand it is tense. I understand that communities might differ, and I think it's incumbent on every single one of us as leaders of this city to decide our level of comfort, how we act as leaders and as representatives of our communities when it comes to these questions. I am always open to continuing to learn and grow, but I will be upfront with everybody that I have a great discomfort with increasing surveillance. And with that, I do want to make sure that I end by confirming the same questions that I remember I asked to AD Pillow when he was here talking about Flock initially, which is through the chair to the director. Are we currently using any type of AI or facial recognition technology at the Real-Time Crime Center?
Director.
Through the chair to council member, we're not.
You are not.
Through the chair, that's correct. We are not.
Thank you. And does the FUSIS integration program in any way use AI or any type of assisted technology to integrate various sources of information?
Director.
Through the chair, not to my knowledge.
Thank you. And through the chair to the director, are you aware of any instances where the federal government in the last 3 years has requested access to our license plate reader system, Real-Time Crime Center cameras, or other materials?
Through the chair, Councilman, I have no knowledge of any of the federal government asking for that particular information.
Thank you very much. Those were the same questions I asked AD Pillow, and I thank you for answering them here. And with that, Chairman, I yield.
Okay, you had 44 seconds left. Okay. Let me see. Are there any other questions at the committee? I know Councilman Harsh has a question, but I don't believe it's related to this, but I'm going to go ahead. Oh, yes, Councilwoman. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I know everyone asked some great questions. I only have a few as usual. Just to say this, pertaining to ShotSpotter, I can say this for the residents in Ward 4, we had plenty of community meetings with the residents. Chair to the team, apologize. We had plenty of community meetings with the residents in Ward 4 who particularly had their own questions pertaining to ShotSpotter. So that engagement turned out to be a positive for the residents in Ward 4 who directly had their own questions to understanding of what ShotSpotter was all supposed to do pertaining to the quick actions of the police officers coming to the aid of someone shooting. And to that, I even had a lot of calls from the residents who referred to ShotSpotter did the job correctly or didn't do it correctly of responding quickly. But I also myself called 4th District to get data every time someone did call me to alert me that they did call in about a shooting in the area. And I did get the specifics of the time frame and what action was taken during that time. It wasn't a whole lot of calls I will call back, but I called enough just to relay the information to the resident who called me pertaining to the shooting in the areas that they felt uncomfortable or fear of, of the activity that was happening in the community. So just saying that to let you know that quite a few residents did go to the safety meeting that we had once a month for the 4th District. And 4th District covers Ward 1, 2, 6, 4, and 5, and part of 12. So, and part of 5. And a lot of residents who came to those safety meetings did inquire and had questions about the productive of ShotSpotter and why we agreed to bring it into the city and what effects that it had. So some was still confused about how it served, and some did have some kind of understanding of what it's supposed to have done. But there's nothing perfect. Absolutely, there's nothing perfect. So I'm just speaking on a community resident level of my experience that I experienced with the residents in the ward that I governed to have that understanding and that connection, because ShotSpotter did initiate it from Ward 4 under Commander Cutts at that time, and we know it was a pilot program at that time too as well. So for me, the statistic was never high to say how it actually prevented or assisted with the officers to get there in a 3-minute time frame, but also nevertheless, if it didn't or didn't do its course, it prevailed in some type of way. Because it brought the residents into a meeting, whereas they had the understanding and had the questions on what incidents happened, dealing with how it worked with gunshots. So to just say the least, that's I don't have a lot to comment on because my colleagues did a great job. But I do have one extra question, Chair, to the director. Even though my colleague, Councilwoman Mahler, touched on NIVEN, NIVEN technology. NIVEN technology.
NIVEN?
Yeah, NIVEN
Okay.
Yeah, NIVEN technology. I just want to just touch base on, did it track bullet casings? That particular technology? Chair to the director?
Through the chair,
Who can comment on that?
Member Gray. It does not track shell casings. What it does is it gives our officers, once we're alerted, the officers are alerted to respond to the area. Part of the responsibility through our general police order, the officers are to get out their car, canvass the area, hopefully find shell casings. The shell casings are then taken as evidence and put into the NIVEN system.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, we're able to, or at least the officers and detectives are able to follow up with their NIVEN leads, which means that the casings were used in other areas as well, and that can follow up on, gives the detectives the ability to follow up on the cases.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And due to that second part, due to them following up on the cases, Chair, to the team.
The casings.
Casings.
The casings.
Bullet casings,
Due to that, was anything followed up on following the person fingerprints from the casing to find the perpetrator who did the shooting and shooting per se?
Who can answer that if you can?
Through the chair, part of the collection is that when it goes through, once an officer collects casings. And it is analyzed by our forensic teams. Part of it is to look for fingerprints and so forth, so they can enter the fingerprints into the system. But when you're talking about an incident where officers are responding for random shots fired, they come out, they look for shell casings and so forth. You know, there's not necessarily a crime associated with that, which means we don't have a suspect per se. So the officers will again collect that particular casings or casings, put that into the evidence, and then if the casings are connected to other cases, then the detectives will have the ability to follow up on those particular cases. But we'll have the fingerprints that we can put into our system.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Just to the councilwoman, fingerprints, you really don't get a lot of fingerprints off of things in general. In my whole career, I think I had 2 cases where fingerprints were actually found. One was because the person had to put a fingerprint stamp on the back of a check that he forged, and the other time happened to be on a really dusty car. You're not, with this circumstance, you're not going to find a human fingerprint on a shell casing. Very rarely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Professor?
Yes. So there's a little bit of my expertise, and maybe is a little bit out of the scope of the evaluation, but now the technology is advanced that you're correct, that the fingerprints are not that great, but they are able to get touch DNA from the shell casing. So BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigations, as well as the State Crime Lab, or the City Crime Lab, County Crime Lab will be able to, in some cases, get DNA off of a shell casing. However, as Drummond mentioned, it won't be able to necessarily put that into the federal DNA database because you don't have a suspect identified in that. But there is a possibility in some of those cases to put some of them and get DNA from them. Can you talk about what you learned from the prosecutor? Oh, yeah, and the prosecutor's office, we talked with folks from them. They do use often that evidence in the connection with a bunch of other evidence to put cases together that originated from ShotSpotter calls.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know this question was, one more question. I know this question was asked by many of the colleagues already. Have you, from that analysis, have anybody has been arrested for, from that analysis by us funding ShotSpotter?
Okay.
Do you have any data on anybody been arrested
You understand the
for
question?
anything?
Any linkage that from the ShotSpotter detections that went off, was there,
Shared through
were there
anyone.
arrests made?
At any time of the 2
Listen
or
up.
the 3 years
Through the
that we
chair.
had ShotSpotter?
Through the chair.
The short answer is yes,
Okay.
based on their data that they provided.
Okay, they did. Okay,
You know,
fine.
Councilwoman, your questions reminded me of a quick point, if you would allow me one.
Go, yes, go
Thank
ahead.
you very much. You brought up the 4th District and Commander Kutz, and with ShotSpotter here, I was wondering if he was still employed with you.
He's never been employed with us, ma'am.
Brandon Kutz?
Brandon Katz.
Okay.
Never been employed by ShotSpotter or Sound Thinking.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so are there any other, are you through?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I have Councilman Harsh, and is it pertaining to ShotSpotter? Okay, yeah, okay, because, I know, figured. At the rate we're going, we'll be there, okay? Keep going.
Mr. Chair, how much time are you giving folks?
15 minutes.
Got it.
You
Great.
got it.
And Mr. Chair, you started every safety committee off with this stat, but I missed it earlier. How many full-time patrol officers are in the employment of the city?
1,151.
Great.
78 recruits, and we've lost 82 so far this year.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the indulgence. I'm not on the safety committee. I try to premise that every time I come to visit you all to let people
Lucky
know I
you.
don't have a
Go
vote on this committee. But I did knock on about 3,000 doors this summer, as many of my colleagues did, and had over 1,500 conversations. And I can tell you that well over 75% of them were about safety and speed bumps. And I never want to talk about speed bumps for the rest of my life.
Okay.
But it is the top issue of concern in the neighborhood when you go out there and listen to the people that live in your community. Safety comes up more than any other issue. So I'm very interested in this subject. I think that this report contains a bit of a bombshell that we're not really getting to, which is that the city of Cleveland does not employ enough officers to even use this technology effectively. It's the first #1 finding of this report. There are not enough Cleveland police officers to effectively use the information being given to them by this technology. There's also a bit of an interesting stat in here that the city of Cleveland has had the largest decline in police employment between 2019 and 2024 of any city in America with less than 3,000 police officers, but more than 1,000. So I looked it up. There's only 8 cities in America that have more than 3,000 officers. For your information, they are New York, Chicago, LA, Houston, Philadelphia, DC, Las Vegas, and Dallas. So with the exception of those 8 cities, Cleveland has lost more police officers in the last 5 years than any other city in America. And I can tell you that in 2015, we had about 1,600 officers on staff, and last year, now we have 1,100. So we've lost almost 500, almost a third of the department in the last 10 years.
Go back, what number did you, what was your first?
In 2015, we had about 1,600 officers.
Okay, and
that was 10 years ago.
And 20?
And now we have 1,100,
Okay,
so we've lost roughly 450, roughly a third.
In 2001, 2000, we had 1,936.
That sounds like my understanding of it as well. However, having lost the most officers in the country, being down almost a third, it's no wonder why so many Cleveland residents are shocked at the lack of traffic enforcement that takes place in our city, and no wonder that I had to have 1,000 conversations about speed bumps, because there seems to be no other way to slow anyone down because nobody gets ticketed anymore. In 2019, the year before COVID, according to the the Ohio Supreme Court, the city of Cleveland issued over 120,000 traffic citations in the city of Cleveland. That's 2019. The year before COVID, 120,000. Last year, we issued, I think, less than 20,000. That's 100,000 fewer traffic citations in the city of Cleveland over the course of 6 years. And no wonder that so many people are fed up with watching people run stop signs, blow through red lights, and the basic lack of enforcement. We don't have enough officers on the street to do this basic routine service, and the report points out that we have so few officers that we can't even effectively utilize the technology at our disposal. This all matters because on page 20 of this report, the good folks at CSU also pointed out that the #1 interest among residents when asked is to see more police officers. Oh Lord, look, it's almost like a theme, right? People want to see more police officers, and this is the #1 response I get in the community when I ask people what they would like to see done about the lack of traffic enforcement, is that they say they would like to see some more police officers in the neighborhood. Sit up there. I stood at the corner of 58th and Woburn, or Gifford, and watched with a lady as every single motorist blew through a stop sign. Every single one. We counted a dozen, maybe 15 before we stopped, because her point was taken. You will see no one stop at this stop sign. And the police could just sit there all day long, right? But all of this is relevant because it doesn't matter what tools we have if we don't have the department to actually use those tools. And right now, it's very clear and obvious that the Cleveland Police Department is not properly staffed in order to use the tools that we have or provide the services that residents want. I also want to point out a few series of facts in here that strung together just sort of leave us wondering if ShotSpotter is worth it at all. First off, it says there's a 90% accuracy rate, but the officers don't always report errors. 90% accuracy meaning that 90% of the time there was actually a shot fired that caused people to go out there, but we don't know fully because officers don't always report errors. There were 126 arrests based on, which is a 10% number, so I'm assuming over 1,200 detections, but that means that officers went out on over 1,000 calls that did not result in an arrest, and we know that these were all priority 1, which led this report to tell us that there's a decrease in response time to non-priority 1 calls, which are calls about burglary, breaking and entering, some domestic violence, some very serious crimes, that the response time has gone down because officers are out chasing ShotSpotter detections that largely do not result in arrests or even preventative crimes. We know that they prevent 0 crimes. These are all post-event responses, right? These are all after the event has already happened. So we have to ask ourselves, with a severely depleted police department, with very little time available for actual patrolling, do we want to send officers out on calls knowing that 90% of those calls do not result in arrest when we're actually causing property crimes to increase the delay in response to those and other safety issues in the city? This all went into the volume and the response. Okay. So there seems to be a much bigger problem facing safety in the city of Cleveland than just whether or not the officers have the proper technology to respond to it. I think based on the math in here, if we were to do the whole city, it would be $5.6 million a year, based on 70,000 per square mile, and the city having roughly 80 square miles. I think it would be $5.6 million right now. We have about, I think, 12 square miles. But I would point out that police officers are about $135,000 a year. If we were to fully staff up, it would cost the city maybe another $34 million a year. If those officers were to issue tickets, we could raise another $10 million a year back in traffic tickets, which would get us costs down to $23 million a year, which would probably do a lot more preventative effort in the city of Cleveland than paying for ShotSpotter. Lastly, I just want to end with this, and I'll give my time back. We cannot put a dollar sign on a life saved. It is impossible. It is a false demand for us to try to say how much does it cost to save one life. We can never quantify the amount of lives saved by a properly staffed police department either. We don't know how many lives or property crimes could have been prevented if we had 250 more police officers patrolling our street every year. We don't know. We can't measure negatives, right? So we also can't put a dollar amount on the life that we think might have been saved as a result of this detection and this detection alone. There are too many factors that go into play. What if this person had been hugged more? You know, you never know what is going to prevent a tragedy from happening. So I don't want us to get bogged down in that. At the end of the day, Mr. Chair, thank you for holding this. It's clear from this report that the Cleveland Police Department is woefully understaffed. It's clear that the people of Cleveland want to see that staffing return, and I think it should be clear to all of us based on common sense that that's going to do a lot more to engender safety in the city than this technology, which is very questionable at best. Thanks.
And,
Chair,
and I know there were no questions involved in there, and I thank you for sitting through my little TED Talk.
And he did real well on time, by the way, too.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks, Councilman. I appreciate the comments, and we are certainly trying to increase our ranks to the budgeted number, which, as you know, is 1,350 right now. As stated before, it's 1,151 officers, sworn officers right now, 78 in the academy, which puts us over 1,200 once they're on the street. And budgeted, thank you again to council for budgeting 180 recruits. Our goal is to get those 180 recruits, get to our numbers, and once we get to the 1,350, to come back to council and ask for additional officers and so forth. So we're in the process. The day before, we do have a hiring event coming up in January. We have a class that will be starting next month. We have a class that will be graduating December 19th of this year. Class starting a few days after that. Another hiring event in January to continue to hire individuals, qualified individuals, become law enforcement officers here in the city of Cleveland, so we can get to the 1,350 and evaluate our needs at that particular time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Chairman? You know what, Councilman Harsh only pinpointed and highlighted what some of us have been talking about a long time here, and we have to be mindful of the fact that to a great extent, this administration inherited some very bad decisions that were made prior to 2020 and prior to the brutal killing of George Floyd. I could produce one letter after another where I advised the council leadership at that time the need to press the issue to put more money into hiring. To the previous administration, I raised it during the budgetary process that the baby boomers were retiring, and how come no one can see that or will acknowledge that? We had a chief sit right at this table, a former chief tell us that he couldn't tell us how many people were eligible to retire based on age and years of service. He actually said it at the table. And so the situation that we're in today was a result of terrible decisions that were made in the past, and not that long ago, quite frankly, where we could have ramped up the division of police, we could have hired, and they didn't. And that's one of the reasons that the director knows that I've been constantly begging for the OHP to come into Cleveland, because just last week or the week before, they demonstrated once again by the number of guns they took off the street, the number of people they arrested, et cetera, that everything starts with traffic enforcement. That's where policing starts, is with traffic enforcement. And every old-time retired copper tells me, Councilman, you want to police the city, you start with traffic enforcement, and Councilman Harsh just reinforced that. So we have our challenges going forward, but the situations we're dealing with today were man-made. I can tell you that being here. I can tell you firsthand, and it just shocked me how people in leadership, both in the leadership of council at the time and in the city administration, previous city administration, failed to understand what we were being confronted with. And then, let's be blunt about it, for 2.5 years under this present administration, you had a safety director, for some reason, who was only hiring 7, 9, 10, 11 people in a division of police, which none of us could figure that one out. And you've demonstrated, I keep asking myself, how could you go from 9 and 10, 11 to how many you have in this class now?
I believe it's over 40.
Okay. I could not figure that out for the life of me. What the heck was going on here? But council does not hire, we do not fire.
41 to be exact. I'm sorry, 41 to be exact.
Okay. Council does not hire, we do not fire, we do not deploy, we do not administer. That's the charter of the city of Cleveland. We've given this administration everything they've asked for, and then some. So I just want to say this. I want to thank again the 2 professors that are here. I would hope that you would take back the CSU. You would take back the CSU. Where other departments could help us, whether it be building, we have issues with building and housing, we have issues with health. Maybe provide to us, hey, these are some other departments that could be of worthy assistance to this council and the administration in providing, third-party review or oversight. We need outside help. We have a very talented staff here within the council, but not everyone has the expertise in every division, every department. And again, I want to thank the Department of Criminology and Sociology for the help of the Levin College of Public Affairs and Education at CSU for your expert information that you provided to us. You've been very helpful, to say the least. And Councilman Slave, you have the final word or something?
Just two quick things. One, I do want to thank Councilman Harsh for pulling out that point, because I think it is the lived experience of this body that the members of this community do not view increasing funding towards violence prevention and increasing the staffing of the Division of Police as a binary choice, that they are not mutually exclusive. That is the majority opinion. Thank you for us having the ability to prove that through an unbiased third-party analysis, and anybody who's suggesting otherwise, I would say, is pushing a narrative instead of understanding what the temperature of the community is.
I agree with you.
I also want to say, going back in time when there was the class that only had about 9 people in there, my analysis was that the initial hiring pool included 217 black residents of the city of Cleveland, none of whom were included in that class of 9. Understanding not just that we're hiring more police officers, but that we are providing employment opportunities to residents of the city of Cleveland maintains a passion point of mine. And to that end, I would ask the director if either he or in partnership with civil service or HR or whomever could be able to, for this graduating class that we are anticipating to graduate, providing a breakdown by their self-declared gender, race, or ethnic background, as well as their city of residence.
Through the chair to Councilman Slade, we can get you that information.
Okay. And if there's no further questions, I want to thank, again, the professors. I want to thank the administration. I want to thank ShotSpotter here. But I will say this in closing. There is concern within the body as we move forward, and I can tell you without any fair contradiction, as to why the administration did not go out for an RFP from this as it pertains to gunshot detection, additional technology. That's of great concern to us. I got to tell you that right now. So we're going to do our deep dive into the legislation that you have proposed to us as it pertains to flock. We're going to do some real deep dive in on that, and we want to make the right decisions, and we want to make sure that there's no question as to the action that we're taking as it pertains to there's no conflict of interest with this body, with any people who once served in this body. We want to make sure we're making the right decisions, because I want to report to what I said just a little while ago. We utilized ARPA funds for this. Those ARPA funds are gone. They are gone. So the decisions we make impact the general fund of the city of Cleveland. And we, at this point, every morning I fear to turn on the TV to find out what they're cutting next in Washington or in Columbus, how it impacts our bottom line. Plus, you know, we're losing the jail. County jail's moving out to Garfield Heights. That's 400+ jobs, I've been told. The issue with the Cleveland Browns relocating, another impact on the local, especially the downtown economy. So this body has great decisions going into the upcoming budget round, the mayor's estimate that will be coming to us shortly. So to my colleagues, we got a lot of work to do. We got to pull up our sleeves, but I'm confident that this body will rise and raise to the occasion to do what is right, and that we will have a balanced budget, and that we will focus on the greatest needs in our city. So again, Director, Administration, thank you. ShotSpotter, thank you. Professors, get us some additional departments and divisions that might be able to help us. Thank you very much. Committee stands adjourned.
And now we got a flag or a ball game. And they started, I thought it was going to start at the snap, but they started when the ball was spotted. Yep, when the ball was spotted. So now we go into overtime, and the most important thing right now, I think, for the Ohio Ducks is mentals.
I'm Richard Stewart, host of Cleveland Health on TV 20. Each week,